Welcome to the Big Week in Gaming podcast. And what do you know? It's been a big week in gaming. I'm integot for episode 31 on this Sunday, the 14th of February 2021. Yes, I did check the date myself. As always, I'm joined by the official Xbox Hall of Famer and number one challenger to the mantle of the greatest Xbox RPG player in the world, Swinny.
Why, hello there.
And the guy in the middle, the ignorant, arrogant, and smug, but we wouldn't want to have him any other way, Mike.
Hello.
In this week's show, we'll be discussing Cyberpunk getting cyberattacked and CDPR is held ransom, the latest update on what's going on with E3 2021, and we review Bowser's Fury expansion for Super Mario 3D World. Swinny, this week, no corrections, is that right?
No corrections. There was part of me that did, and I started typing it in, it's like, Sudoku Relax is actually a decent game.
Okay. I started playing that again, and I'm like,
what were you playing again, sorry?
Sudoku.
Thanks.
Sudoku. I was going to start spelling it Sudoku, like with the U in the middle as well. Sudoku Relax. I was playing it again, and I'm like, yeah, this game is... It's so annoying that they don't allow you to turn the hint system off, but I'll give you this, Swinny, that I did skip to the hard puzzles, and it is much better. But it's still annoying that it has the hint system. I don't know why they have that. Like in Picross, it eventually evolved to be turn off all the hints, and I think that's how most people who like Picross play it. So strange.
You're complaining because you're too smart, and
no, that's not the case.
Basically that's what are you complaining about?
No, it changes the game. You're not really playing it.
I know
in the way you meant to play it. Like I'm completing all these puzzles in like 2 minutes or something like that. It's just
it's meant to just be like it's not like Sudoku newspaper Sudoku, you know.
Yeah,
it's kind of like
what I want.
Sit down and chill. But I do have a correction. It's an eternal correction.
So there is a correction.
I've got a question for you about it. So anyone that has listened every week hears you introduce me as official Xbox Hall of Famer, right? Of which I am not. So that's the correction. I am not an Xbox Hall of Famer, but my question to you, integot, is what is it going to take to stop you from actually calling me an Xbox Hall of Famer? What do I have to do?
I don't think that's going to happen.
I want confirmation from Xbox that you're not a part of their Hall of Fame.
I have to reach out to their official channels.
Yeah. If Microsoft PR confirms that Swinny Costello is not in the Hall of Fame, then I will stop saying it. I believe that you are.
You need to be on the Hall of Fame as the one person who they confirm is not on the Hall of Fame.
So it's not enough that there's an official page for everyone listed that says who's in the Hall of Fame, and I'm not on there? That's not enough?
Xbox and Microsoft, they make mistakes. They made mistakes with the Hall of Fame. We all know that. We've covered that many times. The audience loves our coverage of the mistakes.
Exactly.
Okay, all right. I'll do my best to get an official statement from them.
From Phil. We expect an official statement from
Phil.
No,
that's... See, the other thing is
now you're trying to find loopholes out of this.
Because
the other thing is possibly achievable. I'm never going to get a response from Phil Spencer.
That will be the whole point of this show from now on for like 5 years in. Are you actually in it or not? I mean,
I want to get...
If I ask you the question, are you the number one RPG player in Australia?
Well, from an Xbox achievement standpoint, yes.
Well, that's what the Hall of Fame's all about, isn't it?
Yeah.
Achievements.
Exactly.
And then if I expand that search, are you in the whole of the Southern Hemisphere, about 1 billion people that it covers, are you the number one RPG player in the Southern Hemisphere?
I believe so, yes.
Well, how could you make the argument you're not in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah. And what are you globally?
I'm number two, but
number one challenger.
It also depends
for the throne.
It also depends what you're counting, because there's like certain categories where I'm not number two and stuff. But
Swinny,
overall,
look at this. I just say it like this. Think about it. This is like being the vice president. That person is a heartbeat away from getting their account blocked, and you going to number one.
Exactly, and we could make that happen. I know people that know Phil.
But then I'm going to have an angry mob. We should be sponsored
by Dare. Sorry, Swinny, you can't see it. Only I can see it on my thing. Mike and I are both drinking Dare.
Are you drinking it too? I can't
like
see
at the same time. Dare, if you want to sponsor us, we're happy to put a little Dare at the bottom of the screen.
I just don't want an angry mob like yelling hang Swinny. That's all. You know.
What did you say? Hang Swinny?
Hang Swinny, why would they do
That
that?
got dramatic quickly.
Yeah, I know. What the heck?
Well, it's a situation. If you got the vice president, if I'm equivalent to the vice president, I just don't want that angry mob coming after me.
That's scary.
Nah, you'll be all right. You'll be all right.
You're scaring me now.
Our 3 fans aren't gonna come after you.
And what have you been playing, Swinny?
So honestly, most of the week I've been playing a game that I'm actually going to review a bit later, so I won't spend very long talking about it. I'm going to review Dark Souls later. I'm going to review a game called Blacksmith of the Sand Kingdom later on. So that is actually what I probably put about 40 hours into this week. So that's most of my gaming time.
Ay caramba!
I did also go back to a game called Monochrome Order, which I quite like, which I'll probably talk a bit about next week when I've completed it. And I also started Final Fantasy XII, the Zodiac Age on PC, only just the intro of that game, and also started up Skyrim on PC. So that's the first. I've never played.
You guys are sick. You guys are sick that I'm catching up on these games as part of our game of some other year, and then it's almost like you're bragging or showing off you both by playing them and defeating them or getting straight through them so quickly, faster than I can.
No, actually, with Skyrim, I've never played it on PC, and I feel I feel that is going to be a good idea to do before we actually go to talk about it. So.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, look, it's the same game, especially if you played the special edition. But some of the controls and stuff feel really good on PC.
Well, honestly. The thing is, I've just having it running off SSD is like, oh my god, it's so good because the loading screens in Skyrim are so long.
Yeah. I'm playing it on the Switch because so just to jump in, I said that I was going to play it on the PC, and I'm like, I made that decision. I've changed. I've installed it, and then I went back and played it on the Switch, mostly because I looked through the Game of Some Other Year nominees that we decided the other show, and I'm like, I don't actually have many on the Switch, and I was going to buy LA Noire on the Switch until I found out it was $90 Australian.
What? But hang on. Yeah, I thought it was. Oh,
it's been on sale. It's been on sale a couple of times.
But hang on, you can get the physical copy. Which
you can't find it.
No, you can. Oh, you can't find it anymore because EB Games had it, and it was like $28 pre-owned. Yeah, I looked it up last week when I was talking about it. Well, maybe it was like $28 pre-owned or something. Now, do they have any stock? I don't know, but I thought I'm just gonna look it up right now. So I'm not talking shit.
I think Switch is probably not the best place to play LA Noire. Honestly,
why?
Because I just think it'd be better on other platforms.
Would it though? It's not really the kind of game that needs 60 FPS, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's me personally, like
as the
same with Skyrim. I just think it needs a bit more grunt to it.
There we go. $38.
That's a lot.
$38. Yeah, well, it's a lot. It's still cheaper than $90. So
I say that, and I've got my steel case, Super Mario 3D World, and every amiibo with it. No, there's no copies. I just looked for the used copies.
Oh, no, you are right. There are absolutely no copies.
I mean, to that point, though, Swinny...
there are. There's Swanson Street, at least for me.
Yeah, not New South Wales, though.
Stuff.
Okay. We're doxing ourselves. But,
fair enough.
No,
there's 3 guys from Australia doing a podcast. Oh my god, where could they possibly be?
I always prefer playing on the Switch as long as it's not a massive hit in terms of performance. Even Skyrim, I actually prefer playing it on the Switch than the PC.
Really? See, I'm with Swinny on this one though. I played The Witcher, which is a game that you want performance in, I think, and visuals and stuff. I half played it on the Switch and half played it. I talked to you guys about this before. Half played it on PC, and it was worlds apart in terms of frame rate, in terms of quality, graphics, all that shit. But it was actually really cool and chill and fun to play it on the Switch, and because it's so crammed down, it wasn't that bad, and I actually enjoyed it more on the Switch than I did on PC, strangely enough. So,
but then you don't agree with Swinny on that one, right?
Well, no, I agree.
Am I confused, Swinny?
I don't know. No. I'm the one that's confused. I agree that some games would benefit from it greatly, but then other games, it's like, you know what? Graphics and all that's not as important as the gameplay. Who gives a shit? So, but I'm personally, I think, because I have it on Switch, so I'm sitting here going, I should play it for this Game of Some Other Year as well. Because I have it, I must have put 150 hours on the Switch or whatever that is. You can look it up.
You're saying Skyrim.
In Skyrim, yeah, I'm talking about Skyrim.
Yeah, you played
sorry.
a lot on the
and
Switch.
I played it quite a lot on the Switch, yeah. But then I'm like, I kind of want to play it on PC because every time I play it again on PC, I'm like, holy smokes, it's so much better in terms of 60 FPS and graphics and immersion.
Well, the
and all
mods, that's the big
and the
thing for me.
mods, yeah.
Well,
so.
the mods, while they're obviously way better on PC, at least on the Xbox One version, that actually also has access to a lot of mods as well. But it, of course, not as expensive as a PC.
I like it. You always try to bring it back to Xbox. What else have you been
No,
playing?
I was about to say
Anything
Xbox and
else,
PS3, but then I realized that the PS3 version had issues, so I don't know where they got to there with the mods on Skyrim.
Look at the shade he's throwing at.
No, because
PS3.
that was a specific thing. When they launched the mod platform, it wasn't available on PS3 because of an issue. So I just don't know where it got to. So I didn't want to say that.
Ah, fair enough. And have you been playing anything else this week?
Oh,
Dark
just
Souls?
pretty
Did
much
you clock Dark
those.
Souls again? Oh, wait,
No,
hang on.
so
Did
there
you
was-
not clock Dark Souls once more this week?
No, I was going to do a Dark Souls playthrough of sorts, but I ended up spending way more time on that Blacksmith.
Ah, fair enough.
game,
Missed
so-
out.
Fair
By the way, can I just quickly interject? I am not kidding when I say that you must be up to your 15th playthrough of that game.
Dark Souls?
At least a 5th
No.
in the last month and a half or something.
Eight, I'd say.
Of Dark Souls, I'm probably about 15, 16.
Yeah.
15
Told
full
ya.
playthroughs.
Yeah, it's hard to say though because there's times when I'll play through like 75% of the game and things. So it's like it's hard to quantify. But yeah, because I've gone back throughout the years. It's not just recently, just to get at you, Integot, and say, "Oh, look
It's
at
all
us
about
beating
me.
this game."
What are you talking about?
It is, we're trying to
I
get
do
you back
that all the
into it.
time. I do that all the time. Just go back and just do a random playthrough because it's just fun.
I feel like this is Swinny again,
It's just fun. I love it.
ruining the surprise of what the number one game will be for Game of some other year. Just like with you're very good Assassin's Creed tier list, but the only note that I'd give you is don't give away the top game at the start of the video.
I'm not going to pretend. I'm not going to hide the fact that I'd mentioned that
Neither am I.
Assassin's Creed Odyssey is my favorite Assassin's Creed game about 20 times on the podcast.
Sure,
So-
but like if someone just jumps on to a clip on the YouTube channel, by the way, like, subscribe. We're almost at 100 subscribers, so get us up there.
I'm sick of creating accounts, dude. Let's get some real people.
You know, like if someone just jumps on the clip, they're not going to know that you're going to pick Odyssey.
Well,
Yeah,
screw
that's
them.
true.
Screw
They
'em.
might
should
call
listen
you
to the whole
ignorant.
show.
They
They
might
should
call
listen
you
to the whole
ignorant.
show. They should go back and listen to all of our
Whoa.
2 to 3 hour podcasts
aggressive.
in
Sounds
Sounds
order
like something I
before
would
they
say.
I know.
before they get to the tier list. They need to listen to every single podcast.
It's an aggressive start to the show.
Jeez, wow. I
Mike,
thought I was the asshole in the show.
what have you been playing?
You leave my persona alone. So, of course, I did another, I wouldn't say a full playthrough, but I started Dark Souls again. No surprise
God,
there.
guys.
I wanted to experiment with a different build. I never tried the Faith build. By the way,
Where'd
I
you
don't
play
like
it?
it. On Xbox. On Xbox
okay.
One. Yeah, I tried to play it on Switch originally, and because I had previous to that played it on Xbox, it's hard to go back to 30 FPS in a game like that.
Yeah, a game like that.
Because that game is it's not about the graphics in the end, it's about the gameplay, and the gameplay benefits greatly from 60 FPS.
Although I didn't mind Demon Souls on PS3, which was 30 FPS.
Yeah, it's
I'm sure it's better, but then again, I never played the 60 FPS.
Yeah,
so-
if you played
Yeah.
that one, you'd be like, "There's no, you're not going to bother with the previous one."
Also,
think.
I wonder how the Switch version goes in Blighttown. Like,
It's fine. Yeah, I had
It
no
does,
issues with
it
it.
is?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I finished. I don't think I've
no spoilers
completely
for
finished the game, but I finished
Integot.
most
No
of it.
Yeah, no
spoilers
spoilers
for
for the
Integot.
audience.
No. And I was just thinking through whether I actually completely clocked the game. I didn't completely clock the game. I put in like 50, 60 hours into it though, on the Switch. And what else? Oh, actually, it's been a really big week in gaming for me. Actually,
Ooh.
so there's a few small announcements I need to make. So buckle up. So I finally managed to get my hands on a copy from EB Games of. I'm really looking forward to playing this one. Destiny 2!
What are you doing? Why have you bought a copy of Destiny 2?
I'll tell you why, because I tried to trade it in and they wouldn't accept it. That was a joke, obviously.
So it's,
What I
it's
did
not
get
on their
my
list.
hands
It's
on-
not on their list anymore.
No, you can't trade it anymore because it's free to play now, so you can't even trade it in.
Is it free to play? I didn't actually know that.
Yeah.
Oh. Sure, we've covered it on the show.
The base game.
No, it went free to
not
play
the-
before the show started.
Oh,
It did, yeah.
Okay.
And it wasn't. It was. It's obviously free to play for the base game, but the expansions you still pay for and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Which makes sense. Then I got my hands on a package.
Oh,
I was like, oh,
okay.
excited! It's from Deutschland through Deutsche Post.
He's,
Oh,
he's
wunderbar.
opening the package live on the show.
I opened it up. I am opening the package, and
Live
in
on
the
the show?
package,
Not pre-cut
it's not
or
live.
anything?
It's not live on the show. It's completely pre-cut.
No, live on the show.
In the package, I got the PlayStation dongle. Finally,
Oh,
for the VR
yeah.
headset.
Ah,
yeah,
I should have guessed that when you said Germany, because everyone's saying how the package is from Germany.
It's
quite
coming
weird.
from Germany. Here's the thing, though. It's a camera adapter. I thought it'd be like some adapter for the entire kit. It looks like it's a camera adapter, and I don't quite get that. Is that because the camera itself doesn't work on the PS5?
Have you tried
but
it?
The rest of the kit works. No, I haven't yet because I actually just got it the other day. Here's the interesting thing about it, though. I found this quite fascinating. So obviously we covered this on a previous show. There was a huge delay on people receiving the package. I'm looking at the customs declaration on here, and it's signed by, I have no idea what his name is, on the 30th of November last year. That's when this thing was printed and signed. Now, they may have printed it and had a giant pile of these stickers that they were waiting to put on these things. Or back on the 30th of November, they had already packaged everything. It just got stuck in transit. I don't know.
I think something
actually never got
went
to the
wrong
bottom
with
of
the
that.
shipment to Australia, at least.
It's-
Because
it
everyone
must have
had
been
the
that.
issue in Australia.
So yeah, 30th of November is the date on these things, which is really fascinating. So that's that. Now,
So have you? Wait, did you actually use your PlayStation?
No, I haven't
VR?
Yeah,
yet.
you said
I
you
think
didn't.
I got it like yesterday or something.
Oh,
it,
okay.
it arrived, so no, I haven't had a chance to do it yet. Now, in line with me sticking to my New Year's resolutions,
Can you just
Wait.
maybe repeat that? Because every time we mention it, I forget that
honestly-
a lot of people don't know what
You
your
said you're going
Honestly,
to play less games,
I have
buy less
forgotten them.
games, and make a
play
game.
less, buy less, make a
Yes.
game. Okay, cool.
With no
So,
targets, no goals, anything.
no
It's all
targets, no
loose.
goals, super loose.
It's all subjective.
So completely subjective.
Terrible
So in
goals.
order to stick to my goals, I totally 100% did not purchase a new Switch.
What
So
the
you
hell?
can't see this. You can't
bought
see this,
the
Swinny.
red
But
and
I've
blue
got the
Switch.
red and blue
The
Mario
Mario.
Switch right here.
I
I
was
haven't
thinking about
opened it
getting
yet.
that, to be honest.
Yeah, well, look, let's just say EB made me an offer I couldn't refuse.
Which
So
was buy it.
They came to your house and made you an offer.
they did. They're like, "Hey, man, we want to give you this Switch. We want to give." No, I'm not going to say
You
that.
woke up with
I
Yoshi's
was
head
told
in
I
your
have to
bed.
be clean on this.
Good
I
thing
woke
you
up with
got.
Yoshi's head on my bed.
Good thing you got that before all the shops closed.
Probably good.
Oh
But
yeah, we
look,
should
so-
say that there's a snap lockdown in Melbourne where you guys.
There is, yeah. We're not allowed to go anywhere, and obviously EB would have been closed. Now, okay. The offer that I couldn't refuse was the fact that you could trade in your existing Switch and pay $199 only for the new Switch. And I was sitting there going, man, is $199 worth trading something in for what is effectively much better battery life, which was my number one sell point, and not having Joy-Con drift? I'm like, yeah, look, probably.
Well, you're not going
But I
to
said I
remove
wasn't gonna-
Joy-Con drift. You get a.
No, you just get a new Joy-Con. You just delay it for a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I'm like, hey, whatever the case may be. And then when I inquired more into it, it turns out that it's not so much that you pay $199, it's that they bump the price of the Switch you're trading in to a higher amount. But it also turned out they give you an extra 20% on your Switch. So if you're level 4, which I happen to be, they bump it up by another 20%. So it's less than $199. And I'm like, wow, this is suddenly starting to become much more of a good idea to do. And then I looked at a bunch of
Can I
Switch
pause
games.
you for a second?
Yeah.
So wait, you're saying 199 was the bumped up level, so they were going to offer you?
No.
less.
They were gonna They were so the way they do it is the Switch is $469. What they do is they get your trade-in value for your normal Switch and they bump it up,
Yeah.
so you only have to pay a difference of $199. But what seemed to have happened when this guy did it is he actually said, "Oh, you actually get an extra 20% on the bump up." So
Okay.
whatever the maths is, instead of $199, you only have to pay like say $170 or whatever.
Okay.
So I'm like, hey, that's pretty good. And then any games you traded in, they would bump those up by 20% as well. So I had a whole bunch of games that I just wasn't playing anymore on the Switch, like Children of Morta, Siberia, and a whole bunch of games that I swear to God I bought from EB Games for really cheap. As in, I remember buying some of those at around Christmas or something for $9 each. They had that sale on. They ended up trading some of those back in for like $15, $20 plus. Which is really odd.
I think you're like the only person in Australia who's winning on these deals from EV Games.
Massive win, dude. So
I've
in
been
the
there
end,
where they've
I
literally
walked
said,
out.
"Oh, this game is like, we'll give you $1. This is 50 cents."
No, they
They've
gave me
literally
they gave me so much more than what I bought the games from them a couple of months ago. So whatever. Anyway, it's their business. They can run it how they want. Anyway, I also got to keep the power brick, which, you know, by itself is like what, $30-$40? Because I use that for I wanted it as a secondary thing to charge the Switch, and I also wanted it because I charge my other USB-C devices with it. And the official Nintendo USB-C cable, which is meant to be good quality as well. So I kept those. And with all of that, I ended up paying $40 to upgrade my Switch. So like it kind of became a bit of a no-brainer. Like I get to keep all that stuff. I get to do that.
Sure.
Got rid of like 5 games I was never going to play. Hell, like this worked out really well. So I was pretty happy with that. But anyway, then I thought, you know what? This is not enough. I can do better. I can achieve more in life. So I went out and I got myself
Whoa, what the hell?
this bad boy.
Mike is showing a Series X on the screen.
Series X.
Jeez.
Now,
Mike really living up to
I'm totally
resolutions.
living up to my resolutions of not buying more crap. Now, hear me out. There is a method to the seemingly completely nonsensical madness and inconsistencies in what I do and say. Again, I used a trade deal. So it turns out my Xbox One X, I managed to trade that and I think 5 games from memory for $470. So then again, it became one of the situations where I'm like, hang on a minute, that means I can get a Series X for like $280-$300. Yeah, screw it, let's just do it.
You know, Mike, I'm thinking you should have probably made this a segment at this point.
Yeah, I probably should have made it a segment. Sorry. Whatever.
It's all right.
Now, if people want to know some tips on how you do that, you know, reach out. I can tell you all about it. So yeah, so the Series X upgrade, if you could call it that, came out to approximately, I think it was like around $260-$270 to upgrade to the Series X by trading that crap in. Now, the reason, and in case anyone happens to want to go do it as well, the reason is they've got an offer at the moment, which doesn't sound great on paper, but it actually turns out to be pretty good. You get $260 for your Xbox One X. You have to trade one game in, but it can literally be any game. So I traded in, I don't even remember what it was. It was a $3 game, like the typical $1 to $3. You could trade FIFA or something, and they bump it up to $20. So you automatically get $280. And on top of that, there's nothing stipulating on their sheet that says they can't bump you with your EB World card. So the guy bumped that up by another 20% to like $336. And then I traded in a bunch of games again. I think it was 5 games that, again, I just wasn't playing and they were worth peanuts. And I bought them for less 3-4 months ago from EB. And yeah, when I looked at the receipt, I'm like, holy moly, it added up to like $470 worth of crap as a trade value. So that made that a bit of a no-brainer. But in saying all of that, technically I'm sort of kind of still sticking to my minimalism thing, which is I haven't... Well, hear me out. I bought more crap, but I got rid of crap as well, right? I got rid of a whole bunch of games that I was going to put on eBay. I got rid of the consoles. So I just replaced them with newer versions of the console, so to speak. So I'm not like collecting more crap. I'm just replacing old junk with new junk. So I'm kind of still sticking with that.
I'll take your side on that. I think that no, it's a net. Essentially, he's actually got less.
I actually have less stuff. Now. I got rid of like
less.
10 games. So
you guys are funny. There's no concept of minimalism which is about dumping things and acquiring new things. That's not what minimalism is about.
No, but okay,
he
so
basically like
That's
did an
consumerism.
RPG.
That's
It was an
literally the
RPG
opposite.
style. He upgraded his equipment.
Yeah, but
Basically.
that's
I
not
upgraded my
minimalism.
equipment. Well, no, but it kind of okay. So okay, let me ask you this
I'll
one.
explain. I'll explain. Why
No,
it's
wait,
not
hang on.
minimalism, 'cause it's
Let me.
unnecessary. It's unnecessary. You don't need a Series X, and you don't need a new Switch. It's
No, but
literally like the opposite
minimalism
of-
isn't necessarily just about pure necessity. There is an element of, does a particular thing, spark joy? I don't want to quote Marie Kondo, but you
No,
get
I
what
think
I
that's
mean.
a Marie Kondo thing. That's not minimalism.
No, but I think it's to me, it's part of it. I mean, if I can have one console only, I'd rather have a Series X than an Xbox One, because the Series X does everything the Xbox One does, plus more.
Does it spark joy? Does it spark joy?
Looking at the box,
and it has no exclusives at all.
Yeah, well, I messaged my mate who has an Xbox One. I couldn't tell you guys, obviously, because I wanted to have it as a surprise. But I messaged my mate who had one, and he's like, "I look forward to playing a multiplayer game with you in 2022 because there's literally nothing on it." So there's that. Now, okay, riddle me this about minimalism, since we're kind of talking about it now.
Just give you a heads up. We're going pretty long, and we haven't.
I know.
Even
Sorry,
gotten into got
okay.
yet. So
I'll be super.
maybe let's
quick.
not delve into minimalism.
I'll be super duper quick about this.
Be minimalist about minimalism.
I went and chucked a whole bunch of my wardrobe because I've become a bit of a fat bitch and I can't fit into a whole bunch of stuff, or they're uncomfortable to wear because they're too tight. It's not that the clothes are small; it's that I'm too big.
Yeah,
I'm
too
fat.
I'm fat.
I am. I'm fat. Fat shaming because I deserve it. I deserve to be slapped and fat shamed.
That's your kink.
It is totally my kink.
All right, let's get on.
So anyway, I got rid of that. I got rid of a whole bunch of clothes, and I went to Kmart and I bought 8 black plain t-shirts and 3 plain grey t-shirts for pajamas, and that is my entire wardrobe now. Sans this Deadpool t-shirt and like another t-shirt that I have that's got shit written on it. Now, is that technically breaking the rule as well because I went out and bought more crap? Absolutely it is. But I'm donating the other ones that I had to charity, and they're all in good condition. They're just too small. I'm too big. They're not too small.
And that concludes this episode on Mike's life.
That's my life.
Okay.
I'm slowly trying to take over the podcast and create my own little...
So you do have all of the current gen consoles.
So now I've got all the current... I'm a spoiled little brat.
You're a smug, arrogant, ignorant.
Smug, arrogant, ignorant, spoiled little minimalist wannabe brat.
Just for me, quickly, and then we'll move on to the first story.
Yeah, what did you play?
I haven't had much time to play many games, actually, unfortunately. It's just been a really crazy week. But I have played Bowser's Fury, and we'll cover it later. I was going to pick up the Steel Case. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's on this side. So I've been playing Bowser's Fury. I completed that. And we'll share my thoughts later in the show. Just to keep you intrigued.
Nice.
Did I like it? Interesting.
Did he do like a Mario game?
We actually don't really know.
I'm wearing a Bowser t-shirt as well. It's like
We can't see, so no idea.
You'll see it in the show later.
Nice.
Yeah, so all right, let's get into the first story. So Cyberpunk 2077 developers, CD Projekt Red, were hit by a cyber attack this week with many confidential company files and source code for many of their games stolen and held to ransom. This was posted this week on the CDPR Twitter. I did note that they were not using their classic, now infamous, yellow background. And in the statement, it just read that they had a ransom note that was left by the perpetrators, stole a various amount of accounting, admin, legal, HR, and investor relations information. They did also post that ex-employees, if they would need to reach out to them, they can at a certain email address, and that they should turn on fraud alerts, which indicates that potentially ex-employees also had their details stolen in the hack. In terms of the stolen source code, you've got Cyberpunk 2077, Witcher 3, Gwent, and also it appears to be the next-gen RTX Witcher 3 version as well. CD Projekt Red have already come out saying they will not give in to the demands or negotiate. So as subsequently post that post, the hackers apparently have sold on a dodgy darknet, I guess, website, the source code and other information. And the bidding was going to start at, I think, about $1 million up to $7 million. So if it was like an eBay auction, buy it now for $7 million. And it was like chunks of 500,000. So
in
Mike,
Bitcoin?
Mike,
or actual money.
your favorite game of last year, Cyberpunk 2077. How did this hit you?
And this year as well. It hit me hard. It hit me really hard. Look, all jokes aside, I think it's a scummy thing to do.
Of course.
To do something like this. Initially I joked around thinking, what if it's just a PR stunt to kind of, get the heat off? It's not that. I seriously don't think it's that. I think legit, it obviously is a hack. Really uncool. The fact that someone did that. I think the way the guys reacted to it is really good, especially reaching out to past employees and stuff. It just sucks. They're already under a shit ton of pressure, and I mean the entire team at CDPR to fix the game. And I really do think, I mean, we spoke about how they screwed up, but we spoke about how I really do think they're trying to make things better with us, the gamers. And it just sucks. It's like such a low blow. Things are going shit, and then all of a sudden someone just kicks you in the balls even more and harder. It's not cool. Other than that, I don't know what else to say, to be honest. I'm disappointed. Really disappointed someone would do that.
And did you want to talk about this ransom note, Swinny?
Oh, yeah. The ransom note was the most like mid-2000s hacker movie style ransom note. Have you got the wording?
Yeah, I got it up on the screen, so it's in the video, but I'll read it out. Do you want me to read the whole thing out? It's not that long.
Yeah, let's go.
This is all the note, so this is obviously not us giving demands to CD Projekt Red. Hello, CD Projekt. And they've spelt your incorrectly. So from the start, I put a little sick in there as well, just to make sure people know that we're not making a mistake. Your have been epically pwned or owned. We have dumped full copies of the source codes from your Perforce server for Cyberpunk 2077, Witcher 3, Gwent, and the unreleased version of Witcher 3! 3 exclamation marks. We also dumped all of your documents relating to accounting, administration, legal, HR, investor relations, and more. Also, we have encrypted all of your servers, but we understand that you most likely recover from backups. If we will not come to an agreement, then your source code will be sold or leaked online, and your documents will be sent to our contacts in gaming journalism. Your public image will go down the shitter even more, and people will see how shitty your company functions. Investors will lose in your company, and the stock will dive even lower. You have 48 hours to contact us. There's just so much in this note.
Well, I got to give them credit for one thing. They're true to their word. If they apparently did sell the source code, they weren't bluffing.
And there's reputable sources that say that they did sell it. So,
people would buy it for sure.
But why?
I actually don't
understand. Why would you buy it?
Yeah, like what are you going to do as soon as you use it for anything that anyone can see? People are going to know that that's where it came from. You know?
Hacking tools, mods.
Sorry, Mike. The modding community doesn't have like millions of dollars.
Man, I don't know, but obviously someone out there, if they did buy it, had thoughts that it's valued at that. So if someone actually paid that,
right,
it means
right.
There's a reason why someone out there, they have their reasons why they did it. So there must be reasons. It's not like they just had $1 million spare chump change in Bitcoins or whatever lying around that they wanted to get rid of, you know?
The only thing that I could think is like there's 1,000 employees. I just checked at CDPR. And identity theft, things like that. You know, a lot of people go down that route, but that then
I thought it didn't have any of that, did it?
No, it did. Like from the fact that they came out saying we don't believe ex-employees' details were stolen, it kind of implies that current employees' details were stolen.
Potentially,
Look, it had HR documents. It's going to have information about employees. They specifically said that they did not contain any personal data of players and users of their services. So they said, and with this, you know, like a lot of businesses these days, but especially them, have to abide by all the GDPR regulations about disclosing when things are, you know, when this
GDPR
happens.
or CDPR?
GDPR.
CDPR have to comply with GDPR.
Yes. So they're not going to lie about that. You know, they would have had to disclose if that was the case. So,
can we label this episode CDPR GDPR?
That would probably appeal to about 1% of people.
I don't care.
I deal with GDPR a lot.
What's 1% of 3 people? Like, Round it up to one person. It's still a third. It's still a third. 33%.
It's a finger.
Yeah, this note is just like, it just goes into the mindset of people who do this kind of stuff. Where I just don't get it. I guess they've made a lot of money out of it. And normally with these type of hacks, they're pretty straightforward. Like either you get in or you don't get in. So I guess it made sense, but...
Do we think they targeted them specifically because it's CDPR and maybe there was an agenda, or you just think they saw there was something they could get into and they just did it?
People are always trying to knock on doors. That's kind of like I was chatting to actually where I work, some of the security team, and they're really good, like some of the best in Australia. And the kind of analogy is it's like they walk, like actually like in real life, like criminals will go around and case houses, just look at them and sort of go, well, what's this kind of security here? And it's like the whole door knocking thing. It's like, well, is anyone home? Knock on the door. Have you ever, like this happened to me a few times. Have you ever like had someone knock on the door and then it sort of like makes no sense what they're saying or like what they're asking for?
But I'm aware that that's happening. And it happened twice and both times I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Oh, sorry. No, because I'm aware. We
are literally instituting a swear jar.
Oh, God, I'm sorry.
For charity.
It's literally what I'll do it for charity. It's literally what I said because I was aware for many years now that something like that happens, and I've been broken into before. So
I'm like security is a bit like that. They will constantly going around to servers and attacking services and just seeing like off the shelf things where it should have been updated, hasn't been updated. Maybe the update cycle's too slow. Okay, an existing exploit will work here, bang, get in, see what kind of leverage position they can get internally. It's actually not as hard as you think it is.
No, but I feel like to Swinny's point, I do feel that maybe they tried harder with this one, if that makes sense. It wasn't just like a random, we happen to be able to get into CDPR's systems. I actually think they tried to get into it.
Yeah, maybe it's like they had their attention on it.
Absolutely.
Not necessarily that they worked as hard as they could ever, but maybe it was just like, maybe we'll try to get into these guys because they're annoying us or whatever. So
I've got
annoying us by what? Promising something that we wanted but we didn't get. It's so childish.
Yeah, I've got two just general thoughts about this. First of all, I feel for, as Mike was saying, I feel for these guys. This, the people working there. This is just kicking someone when they're down.
Oh yeah.
And the second one is, man, next gen Witcher 3 ray tracing. Oh, bring it on.
Maybe the hackers can release ray tracing mods and stuff for it.
Well, that was the thing that
code, be into it, give us some good mods.
Oh, it won't have a separate achievement list, so bring that on.
I was surprised that they'd work so much on it because my gut feel was like they might have paused that or not really kicked it off. How many people are working on it where obviously Cyberpunk has got so many issues that they're still working through. So
it's also like given the issues that they're having with Cyberpunk, how many resources do you keep on the Witcher 3? And I think they would have had to pull a whole bunch of people in an emergency to get them onto Cyberpunk. So
because they're not that big compared to like other comparable AAA studios.
Yeah, like Rockstar or something.
Yeah. So I don't know. That really surprised me when it sounded like, they have a fully fledged version. Maybe it's not as hard as I think it is, to be honest.
Yeah, but the biggest difference, I think, between, say, something like Rockstar and something like CDPR is those guys run on vodka, man. They're like machines. Just constantly downing that sweet, sweet East European vodka.
The only, this is really left field, but the only economic out that I could see potentially is, and I don't want to cast aspersions, but this is just factual because you can look at the market, is in the Chinese market, copyright just isn't the same as it is in the West. Like, there's blanket examples. I sent you guys, that Cyberpunk clone that they released in China. It's like almost the exact same box art. You could barely tell the difference. So whether, because the Chinese market's massive, they have leaked the Red engine, which drives all of these games. So maybe like that's an angle because other off-the-shelf tools are quite expensive, even in China. Like Unreal Engine, Unity.
They're not cheap.
There's a lot of money that has to go out, to build those style of games. And I guess if you steal like an engine, they could always turn around and argue, well, it's not from that. I mean,
There's
you'll be able to work
obviously
it out.
something. Someone paid money for it. There's
Yeah.
obviously a need for it. No one's just going to do it willy-nilly.
Yeah.
On a very related topic, I think this week was also the week that the journalist Joe Hildenbrand got hacked.
Oh, yeah.
And the hacker messaged him on WhatsApp saying, "Hey, bro, I got your account. You got to pay me to get it back." And he's like, "No, you can keep it."
Yeah, he handled it in the best way.
Hang on a minute.
And he said, "Sell it, and we'll split."
He's like, "Sell it. We'll split the profit 50-50. Does that sound fair?"
All right, let's.
And then he was asking if he could pay the hacker to keep the account.
All right, let's move on. So the next big set of news that we have this week is E3. So the ESA, which apparently the board of the ESA hasn't been fully across the statements from the group that organizes E3, which is a bit confusing. But they are moving forward with E3 2021, not in a live event as a face-to-face event, as some places are still trying to do in 2021. I believe PAX is still trying to do a face-to-face event, which is interesting.
Insane. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, you'd never see that in Australia, I don't think, even though we don't really have a huge problem with coronavirus generally. I mean, you guys are in lockdown at the moment, but the pitch in terms of E3 2021 is that it will be a 3-day live stream event. They're, again, asking for 2-hour keynotes, award shows, previews, potentially demos, things of that nature, and then really working out a way to get, the audience participating in it. The sort of curveball there is, as sort of, disclosed by some publishers, that the ESA is still requesting, quote, 6-figure sum for publishers to participate. Last year, the 2020 version was cancelled. They were trying to stick with the face-to-face version of it almost up to the last minute. And we had other companies already pull out of it. So Sony, EA, Activision, and other companies just deciding to do their own separate events. And then even with the last edition in 2019 of E3, Nintendo didn't do a keynote, and they hadn't for a few years. And just the final thing.
This spell the death of E3?
Well, that's the question, and I guess to segue, Jeff Keighley, who has been running a few events last year, initiated the Summer Games Fest, which is offensive to people in the Southern Hemisphere. It's the Winter Games Fest.
Winter Games,
Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Forget about 1 billion people, Jeff. So he's often worked with E3 to present the main show, and he'd pulled out last year and then now has pulled out formally for E3. And I think it's a bit of the writing on the wall there. They didn't pivot to a digital event. I think he's very much trying to do that. And then I guess the question is, Swinny, how viable is E3 going forward, and even in this year?
Well, even before the pandemic, E3 was really struggling. So they had that leak of all
that was terrible.
The data that was like all the so many people across games media had to actually, like, some people changed addresses. Most people had to change their phone numbers because it all got leaked, and it was just like an open Excel form or like some kind of spreadsheet form.
Yeah,
directly accessible via the website. It was such an amateur job. And
just I don't want to move off that point just for a second. Like, especially, unfortunately, there is a very, very small element in gaming of like creepy people, and especially for female journalists, they were like getting calls out of the blue.
That's
like,
up.
I just remember Alana Pierce. So she's a pretty well-known journalist, and now
Australian,
Aussie. Now with Sony actually, and in Santa Monica, that studio. But she was getting calls, and it was like, "Hey, Alana, blah blah blah," and she's like, "Who are you? I don't even know who you are." And she had to get rid of her number from like 15 years. She'd had that.
That
number.
is annoying as hell.
Like, that would drive me insane. I'd be basically like, I'll never deal with this company again.
I would sue them.
Some people try to, I think.
So that was obviously a huge thing at the time. And then when it led up to last year's, before anyone had even heard of or really, it was a blip on the radar, the pandemic. Then we had Sony pull out, as you mentioned, all them, and even up to last minute. So then they made this big announcement about working with an event partner called IM8bit to completely, reinvent the show and the experience and the activations and all the marketing bullcrap, and then they pulled out. And that was before that the physical event had been cancelled, and then obviously then the pandemic came into full flow. So it was already really struggling. Look, at least they're not trying to do an in-person event. That would be completely stupid for them to try to do that. Who knows? I've listened to a lot of people talk about this, and is it worth it for these companies anymore? A lot of them, especially the big platform holders, are doing their own digital events, and so they don't really need the exposure that E3 used to give them. I still love E3. Period. I think as gamers, we love hearing about the big keynotes, conferences, and the announcements. But a lot of that stuff is happening now. It's just they may not need E3 to do it.
Yeah. Well, I think ultimately, as someone who's into gamers, I think largely are relatively antisocial, but not antisocial per se, but they're not really the kind of people that necessarily need to go to big events and stuff like that. But there's a place for that. It's fun. It's cool to go to these things in person, and actually have these kind of events where you can meet up with other people in real life and do these things.
Well,
and
that's
the biggest thing it adds.
I'll say it's important to clarify that E3 never used to be that. They only opened it up to the public a few years ago.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and just like on that.
No, so it was always just for press, but it was pretty easy.
It was a trade show.
It was pretty easy to get hold of a press pass. But
find something else then.
But it wasn't meant to be a press event. I mean, you go back to first principles. What is it? It's meant to be a trade show. So it's meant to be publishers, platform holders, everyone getting together and negotiating deals. Hey, I'm a publisher. I need more games. What are the games out there? That's how it's always structured. And then they eventually let press in to cover and promote and create media and marketing buzz for magazines. And the funny thing is, like in Australia, we'd often see this stuff months after it happened. E3 was always like June, July. We're hearing about it in October in Australia, which is quite funny. And I think just from a first principles perspective, it made a lot of sense. Like you need to have that back in the 90s and early 2000s. Now we're in such a different era where, you can reach out to publishers directly as an individual and get press just from, people who are hyped about your game. The world has changed so much. This online version to me makes no sense. And that, Sony had already pulled out, so Sony are not going to go back in. That makes no sense. And Nintendo basically had notionally pretty much pulled out of E3. It was really purely a bit of a marketing play for them, not really to promote much of their new stuff. They hadn't done that since maybe when Zelda was announced back in 2016,
they went pretty strong on the show floor stuff, but
that's from a marketing point of view, it wasn't.
Yeah, but that's not an option anymore. So the value to them is non-existent.
Yeah. So and then you're just left with Microsoft, and the only thing that I can think is, E3 has a traditional lane into mainstream media more than any other thing in gaming, I would say.
I will still say also Bethesda and Ubisoft are also I'm talking the big keynote conferences and stuff. So it's essentially those three are probably the big three that.
But Bethesda's going to be a part of Microsoft by the time this happens.
Yeah, that's of course. Yeah,
it'd be bizarre if they had a Bethesda show and a Microsoft show. I find that really weird if they did that. So what are you left with? Just like Ubisoft and Microsoft? It's just kind of pointless. And also, by the way, Ubisoft has their forward events that seem to be working fine for them. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. The only angle is, again, that mainstream press seem to pick up on E3 just because it's a thing in the calendar. They have the existing relationships. That might be the one angle you look at. And then that then makes you go, well, Microsoft needs the most amount of press out of the big three. So maybe that's why they do work with E3 to do something. But I think it's going to be a very, very hollow version of it. And it was already hollowing out. Personally, I'd prefer just having the news happen when it happens. I don't know why we have to try to set 3 days.
Yeah, pump everything. All the pressure that comes in on developers, on really the only good thing it is that it's a way to get publicity for your particular thing. So if you're a smaller developer or a smaller company or something, it's a way to get something in there and advertise, and then more. It's got a broader reach.
I do think potentially the only. Sorry, go.
No, that's the one thing. The only quick thing I was also going to say is if there's one thing I actually really miss, and that's the game trailers website. You guys remember that GT? Yeah. That to me it was always my favorite because it had, I don't know why, maybe it's just the way I read information and stuff. It almost had the least bull approach. I remember going there and it was just easy to see the trailers and see what stuff was at different events and that. And that got shut down, and it just made you realize that, wow, even big sites, and that was a pretty big site. A lot of us used to go into that. Even big things like that can just disappear. So nothing's, I'm not saying don't take it for granted, but just because E3 was massive doesn't mean it's going to be the thing anymore. It might not even exist in a couple of years.
Just to go back to your point about, the only thing there is an important part that a lot of people don't think about with E3, and Integot, you were mentioning it about from a trade show standpoint, that a lot of business deals and a lot of publishing deals happen at E3. Yeah. And when you lose that and you lose GDC as well, happening in person, suddenly we're not going to, this has an impact that no one will ever know because a lot of those business deals don't happen. Or
they happen behind closed doors.
No, but the point is that a lot of these happen because someone met someone, not so much at random, but they met them at a bar, and then suddenly they're like, "Hey, come to our thing tomorrow and present to us and things." And so you're going to lose a lot of that. And look, that was never going to happen in the pandemic era anyway. But I think that a lot of people don't think of that angle of why E3 is actually important. So
you're telling me what we should be doing is spinning off a virtual bar where people can hang out and pitch ideas and stuff.
Yeah, it's called Animal Crossing.
I actually don't get the joke, Mike.
It's not a joke. It's a business idea.
No, there's an app called House Party. Oh, no, not House Party. I'm so old.
Clubhouse. No.
Clubhouse. I'm on it. I can invite you if you want.
No.
You can create rooms and stuff like that. I'll probably dox myself by showing my screen.
I'll stay well away from Clubhouse.
Actually, it does have my initials.
I'm good. It sounds a bit weird.
I've got to censor it. I've got to censor it. People can work out what my initials of my real name is.
Oh yeah, they'll totally work that out. Dude, it's gonna happen inevitably. I told you.
All right, just to conclude, do we think E3 is gonna go ahead or not in 2021?
No.
No, not in person.
I think
no. As in, I don't think the digital stuff will happen.
I love.
You reckon a digital won't happen either? Okay.
No. Yeah. We know in person's not happening.
I know. Are you listening at all?
No, we've established. Are you listening? That I'm not listening. I've said multiple times. I do not listen. Well, I don't know. Maybe. Yes, I think it might still. They might pull a rabbit out of a hat and go ahead with it.
I think it'll go ahead, and I think it will be really embarrassing. I think it would just be the fact that they couldn't pivot and gear up for an online event last year, when I think everyone would have been on board with them doing it to establish something. I think it just shows that they lacked a lot of confidence to get the online stuff working, and that's really not easy. I do some similar stuff like that at work. And man, there's a lot of technical issues when you're having even hundreds of people watching something, a video feed. Then when you amplify that to millions, that's the Game Awards. They get millions of people watching simultaneously now. And I don't feel like they'll run it through like a YouTube or Twitch. They'll want to run it through their own thing. And that's
just
really
gonna
not
have to
easy
bite
to
the
do.
bullet and do that. No, it's not easy.
So I think they'll do it. I think it'll have very few people participate. I think Microsoft will. I think Nintendo will only notionally. They won't do a keynote. And I think it will fail. I think the stream will go down and it'll be a bit of a meme. And I honestly think it'll be the last nail in the coffin for E3.
I look forward to the Rockstar Energy Drink keynote conference because everyone else has pulled out.
Awesome. All right, let's get on to the next story. So now we have a release date for the big... Probably the biggest one that's come out so far, I would say, PlayStation 5 exclusive, Ratchet and Clank, or as in our notes say, Ratchet and Clank, Rift Apart. The release date is going to be 11th of June, 2021. Initially, the game was described as coming out in the launch window. I would argue that this is not the launch window anymore. It's been developed by Insomniac Games. This is the first game in the series since 2016's remake of Ratchet and Clank, and this is one of my anticipated games of 2021, as I feel like this is a true next-gen game based on what they've shown so far.
I think it's still in the launch window because
would you argue it's in the launch window?
Well, I would argue purely
outside of the launch
because
console.
there's no stock. There's no stock. So in terms of penetration of the market, there's not a lot of stock still. I think that
Did
he's
you
still
have
in
to
that early
pause
stage.
there after saying
Oh no.
that?
Anyway, don't go back to it, Swinny.
I'm
Come
not
on.
going back to it. I was
I was so proud of
actually,
him not going on with it. I was so proud of him, and then
I
you
was
had to try to
trying to-
open it up.
because I was trying to get my thoughts together to explain the point I was trying to make, which is that because of so little stock in the hands of consumers, I feel like it's still relatively early on in that sense, in that cycle. So yeah, still part of the.
And are you
early
looking forward to it?
penetration.
Because we know that Swinny is an Xbox shill and doesn't have a PlayStation 2, 3. Oh no, you got a PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, 4, or 5. So I'm not going to ask him if he's looking forward to it. Is this something that's on your radar, Mike?
Nope. I was never into the previous games. I heard they're really good games and everything. I just unfortunately just never got into them. It's one of those Mario games are amazing. I just never really heavily got into Mario games.
That's true. That amazes
same
me
sort
that
of
you
thing.
haven't really played any Mario games. Like that's
know.
baffling. Because you're
Played
like
some.
in a weird way the most rounded gaming person on the podcast.
Well, no, that's the thing. I played quite a few of them. I just never really got into the whole thing. Like I never finished Galaxy. I never finished Odyssey.
But you barely played it from memory as well, right?
Galaxy,
No,
maybe
Odyssey.
like a quarter. Odyssey, like maybe a tenth.
Yeah, just like a world or two.
And it's not because I didn't enjoy it. Nothing like that. I have nothing against. I have something against the complete reuse of a brand, but I have nothing against the games themselves. They're solid games. They're amazing. Each one has something really cool about it that I quite enjoyed. There's just too much stuff out there. So
Yeah, there's all the
priorities.
5th playthrough of Dark Souls to go through.
I know. I've got a problem. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
I'm seeing someone for that.
I'm really looking forward to this. I think the thing for me is that I'm just nervous that this game's going to launch and it's going to be like $120 Australian at launch. Which I guess is almost the equivalent to the $70 US standard that games are launching at now.
Yeah.
I just think we've been spoiled in Australia because
We
games
were
have been
massively
launching for
spoiled.
like $40, $50 US dollars equivalent for a long time.
Yeah,
Because of
we
weird
got heaps
currency
of games.
things, so-
Yeah, like $70 games. It's super cheap. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Especially given our, lack of scale. I'm really surprised that Australia got it so good.
Yeah. So again, I'm really looking forward to this because this game is a game where they've only built it to work on the PS5. I think it makes perfect sense from a business perspective why they've been launching games on the PS4, including games that were thought to be exclusive to next gen, like RE8. Now is being confirmed as backwards compatible. Well, not backwards compatible, releasing on last gen.
So I always thought that was the case. I never thought that'd be.
No, they never announced that. They only ever said it was going to come out on the PS5 and Xbox Series X and S. And they were asked the question, they didn't answer it, but they just said we can confirm that it's coming out on the PS5. But then obviously in that show that we had a few weeks ago, they'd confirmed that it was coming out on PS4 and Xbox One as well.
Nice.
Yeah, but this game is interesting because, they're really trying to take advantage of especially the SSD and ray tracing and then also 3D spatial audio. So I don't know. It looks really this game and Demon's Souls were the two games I looked at from a next gen perspective. Like, wow, okay, that does look. It just looks like something you can't do on the PS4 Pro. So I was like, okay. So if I can get this game for like not a ridiculous amount of money, 120. I'd feel too bad about myself if I bought it for 120.
Imagine how many Pokemon and Animal Crossing cards you could buy for that instead. Or
it's not
how about, I don't know, amiibos that he keep boxed up somewhere
Pokemon
or in a
cards.
shelf. Oh,
Dude,
I don't know what he buys nowadays.
I don't buy
all that
Pokemon
stuff he
cards.
buys and doesn't do anything with.
I was good this week and I didn't add it to the show, but I did buy, and I should say to everyone, and unfortunately we don't have it as a segment, that they did confirm the Sanrio collaboration with Animal Crossing.
He's
Amiibo
got him
cards.
started, Mike. What are you doing?
The Amiibo cards have been confirmed for Australia, so they're EB games, so you can pre-order them now, which I have for my wife.
Okay. Yeah,
But I did actually. You won't be able to see
Happy
it.
wife, happy wife.
I did get the
waifu.
Cat Mario and Cat Peach amiibo. So I did get amiibo this week, Mike.
Of course you did. No amiibo, no week worth living
So the
in
last
the Integot household.
the last thing I'll say, because you didn't want to add anything, did you, Swinny?
Sorry.
I think we both just want to move on to the next
I was
topic.
on mute because I'm like, I have zero to add to this
Yeah.
discussion. Let's go to the next topic.
The only thing I'll say is there is a female Lombax in this game that they still haven't said what the name is.
A what? A Lombax?
Lombax.
What's a Lombax?
I can send you the wiki article if you want to
Okay.
learn.
Thanks.
It's a fictional.
You say it like okay, right. You say it like
no, it's in Ratchet and Clank.
okay, but you say it like Swinny and I should know. But
Of course you should.
I knew what it was.
There you go.
Okay.
You ignorant, arrogant smug. The only thing I wanted to say is they haven't said what the name of the female Lombax is, even though it's on the box art. Yeah. And I'm pretty much on the same page as other people. I think this whole rift apart is a bit of a dimensional thing. So it's probably
Janet.
No, it's probably Ratchet in another dimension. So
yeah, I think it's Janet. I think that's gonna.
Although there is some word that it could be Rosie. So yeah, this game.
Rosie.
I'm going to be super interested in it. Although I'm not a fan that the 4K version runs at 30 frames per second. Like
what?
That's just
on a PS5.
Yeah.
I don't know what. Yeah. I mean, look. Yeah.
I don't like it, man. 60 frames
especially
per second
for a PlayStation exclusive. I get it for something that's cross-platform, but for an exclusive,
it's 60 frames per second at 1080, and I mean probably at 1440 if they had that mode. Looking at you, Sony. But
if you look at this game running, like I think I understand why. Like this game's doing a lot.
It looks insane.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm just surprised from I guess a goal and marketing perspective that they didn't say no, it has to run at 60 regardless.
I think we should get used to it, honestly, because I think that's going to be the tale of this generation.
Oh, dude, whoever thought that you're going to get 60 FPS as a baseline and 120 as nah.
I think 60 will be baseline, just not 4K 60.
Yeah, I think the generation in general will be 4K 30. 1080p 60. I think that's what. Yeah, and I know you guys hate it. But that's not what it's
sold as.
Just wait, Mike.
This generation.
I know you guys hate it, but I still game on 1080 because I think the 4K thing is so overplayed, and I'm happy with that. 1080 60. I'm like, sign me up. If every game is 1080 60, I'm
but you're in front of a monitor and stuff, right? Not that makes a difference, but 1080 on. So first of all, you can't get 60-inch TVs in 1080. So you kind of have to get the 4K.
Sure.
And then if you set it to 1080p, which you can, there's nothing stopping you from doing it. It absolutely does look blurry at that.
Yeah, I know, but that's why these TVs are dumb. Like, so I'm not a fan of it. But anyway, let's move on to the next story.
By the way, sorry, I say this as someone who moved my PlayStation 5 from my 4K TV to my 1080p TV in the bedroom. And it's perfectly fine.
Axiom Verge. So Axiom Verge 2 has been confirmed as an Epic Game Store exclusive. So Tom Happ, who is the man behind Axiom Verge, confirmed on a blog post that he'd done a negotiation and his business partner negotiated with Epic Game Store, and they will be releasing Axiom Verge 2 on Epic Game Store and also on the Switch, and only those two platforms at this stage.
They made them an offer he couldn't refuse.
Well, pretty much. He did confirm in the posts on the blog that it will be coming into Steam, and he is working with his partners at Sony and Microsoft to bring them on those platforms. So I think everyone understands that there'll be a 6 to 12 months exclusivity, and then
exclusivity on PC, but you still get the Switch version. Cool. Yeah, okay, that's better.
Which is becoming like a much more common thing that you'll see. Like PC, they almost treat PC as a separate platform, not competing with the consoles.
Because it's almost like within PC, it's almost like the separate platforms within the PC platform now.
Well, there are now, yeah.
Which is
there wasn't before.
A little annoying
as
for
evidenced
consumers,
as evidenced by the YouTube video clip which showed Axiom Verge 2. I think his like to dislike ratio is about 50-50 or thereabouts when I saw it. So yeah, there's a lot of people who really do not like Epic Game Store, do not like Epic. And I think, I can understand if people come from a history of having things on Steam and just having that platform, and it's a fairly open platform. Works on Linux, works on Mac, works on Windows, and it really drove the indie scene, to be honest.
I think it's people don't. I mean, it's kind of like, wow, fantastic for Steam that they've basically made PC gaming their thing in that sense. But in the end, a PC is just a platform for other things. Being stuck with a single store, which traditionally is Steam, has benefits because you have your library in a single place and stuff. But really, like from a consumer's perspective, it's also good to have options. But at the same time, I can kind of also see, man, I don't want another store that I've got Rockstar, I've got this, I've got Epic, I got that. Just give me one goddamn consistent platform. The only thing that shits me about the Epic Game Store that I've turned off is every time I turn my PC, I get freaking 3 notifications taking up my screen saying, oh, this is available, do this, try that.
Get this for free.
Piss off. I just want to, just use my PC. If I want to go to Epic, I will go to Epic and I will look at the games.
Yeah, but I always make sure.
But you can turn that off. You turn that shit off. So it's not a big deal. But it's so obnoxious the fact that it's even there, that it's like that by default. I just find it really obnoxious.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to turn off. But
hey, they give you free games, so why are we complaining?
And what did you think about this, Swinny?
All right, let me take a deep breath here. All right, just giving you a heads up. Okay, anyone that is still so adamantly pissed off about this whole Epic Game Store exclusivity stuff needs to pull their head out their bloody ass, reprioritize themselves, and grow up. This dude,
grow up.
Read this blog article.
He's gonna get death threats.
Let me finish.
I might have
piece.
to take off the Dare sponsorship that we have.
Let me finish my piece. You guys have been talking for like the last 3 minutes.
Sorry.
Read this blog article. Anyone that hasn't, this dude, right, states there, and he's really upfront about it. He's got a family, right? This is a fantastic decision for him. He's got a kid with cerebral palsy. He's got a lot of things he needs to think about his life. And if he is able to get a downside guarantee and continue to not only support his family, but work on his future games and this game, because no doubt he'll get, post-launch support, then, like, the people getting pissed off about it, not people being disappointed by it. That's not who I'm getting angry at. People that are like, I'm not playing this game. I'm boycotting this game. Like, seriously, grow up. Like, I can't believe we're not past that point yet. If you don't like the Epic Game Store because it's not a great platform, fair enough. But he has a right to be able to release a game the way he wants. It's going to hit the other platforms eventually. So when I started reading a lot of and not to say that YouTube comments are a great place to go sometimes to get some intelligent takes on this stuff.
You gotta go to Twitter, dude. You gotta go to Twitter.
It's like, some people are just absolute idiots about that whole thing. I just can't believe it that we're not past that point.
I'm gonna clap to Daddy Swinny. It's a good point.
No, it's a very good point, and I totally agree.
I
support you, and I will take the death threats along with you when they come.
I'll join in on that. You can give the death threats to our whole podcast, but
just spread it evenly, please.
Yeah, look, this is why I wanted to cover this story as well, because I think people look like you guys know a bit of this, I guess, but I ran my own business for a while, and we had like up to about 7 employees, right? And I can say for certainty, I did not understand the feelings that you have as a small business owner. And I look at, Tom Happ as a small business owner, right? It just so happens his business is making games.
He is, yeah.
I cannot explain to you. You have to really go through it. But the stress you have that you have to make the bills, you have to pay your employees, people rely on you. I had people who had families who I employed, so the success of my business, they are reliant on, and it's a different type of stress that I've ever had in my life. And it's also, I guess, depends on your personality type, but it's that level of responsibility that you feel that you are generating something that other people rely on. I 100% understand where he's coming from, where you can have a deal, and the way it sounds is they're probably bringing in a model that's a bit similar to what publishers do, and the whole book industry, which is we'll give you an advance, maybe we'll give you X amount upfront as a bit of a juicy fee. We will take a small clip, and then the rest of it you make like normal, which is the 88% that Epic Game Store, which I think is much more fair than the 70-30 that all the other businesses employ. And I think it's ridiculous, anyone having an issue with this.
Yeah, but okay, I totally agree with all of that, but you got to think, there's a lot of people out there who haven't had a business, and there's a lot of people out there who probably are 15, who live with their parents, who have absolutely zero notion of anything you just spoke about. Now, I'm not saying they're ignorant. Actually, that's exactly what I'm saying. They're as ignorant as I am to a whole bunch of shit. And you're always going to get people like that. And you know what? In the end, if I was this guy and if I was a developer, don't play my freaking game then. Don't download the Epic Store. Go play something else. If it's that much of a problem to you and you don't see the reality of having to have a family and have this as a job, I don't go to a freaking job getting paid a cozy 6-figure sitting in front of a screen all day and being told exactly what I need to do. This guy has to freaking figure out how to feed his family, right? There's huge risks involved with this kind of stuff. People don't see that. It's so much easier to just hit a thumbs down button on a YouTube clip and then sit there and write a horrible comment about it just because you don't want to download a bloody game launcher. Are you freaking serious? As Swinny said, grow up.
And it seems like even though there is a lot of hate, it hasn't seemed to have affected games that have launched on the Epic Game Store in this manner. Like they have eventually got onto Steam and they've got seemingly just as many sales as they would have. So from a business perspective, I think it makes perfect sense what he's doing here. And, you know, it's something that I'll look to pick up on the Switch because, you know, I'm still playing through the first one, which I really enjoy.
Yeah. I'm going to start the first one again.
Yeah. So I think we're all in unison on that one.
We are absolutely
grow up,
unison.
kiddies.
And by the way, you know what? I think a whole bunch of these people that are sitting there giving Epic Games shit about their store and giving developers shit about putting it on that platform, guaranteed a lot of them actually have the client. I guarantee a lot of them were downloading the free games, using the platform, and then bitching about it like they're holier than thou. It's just nonsense.
Of course. All right, for our next story. So in the US, so Nintendo US, Nintendo announced a new one-on-one consultation service for US Switch owners called the Nintendo Switch Concierge Program. As I said, it's only available in the US, not even Canada, only the US. It's a one-on-one video call that you book with Nintendo, and the consultation topics include Nintendo Switch 101, games, getting started, games, what to play next, security and privacy, Nintendo account, and customization. Whether you want to make it dark mode or light mode for your Nintendo Switch. The process is as simple as picking a topic and booking a slot. I actually went to book this because I have a US phone number that I can reroute to my Australian number. And I was like, maybe I should just do this and try it out. I looked at the hours and it really doesn't work for Australian times. And then I thought it would be a bit of a jerk thing to do ultimately.
No, I think it'd be great.
But I did want to see what it was
Can
like.
you do it and record it, or can you?
I was thinking about it, but I thought
What
it was
is it?
move.
Obviously, they're closed right now, right? Like, well, what's the time over there now? We should do
it's
it live
nighttime,
sometime
so
if
no,
we
it
can.
wouldn't be- it
I
wouldn't be
think you
available.
probably would also have to agree to that you're not recording it as well. I imagine that's probably
but
part
they're
of
recording
the-
me, so
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, plus, we live in Australia, so you know we're allowed to record conversations in the state. In the state that we live in, not
but
the
not
state
in my
that you
state.
live in.
Not in my state.
So I would have to.
Anyway,
do it.
let's move
Yeah.
on. So, what do we think of this, Swinny?
I'll do it.
So, when you first saw the headlines about this, they framed it in a way. Now, I know headlines are meant to get people to click, and it got me to click, so it worked. It's like Nintendo offering new service to tell you what games to play next. And you're like, wait, that sounds ridiculous. Like, why does anyone need to know what game to play next? But that was obviously one part of it. Just the overall service. I think if they stick with this and it ends up, they do it well, I reckon this is a huge thing for retailers over there. So just think anyone going into GameStop or Best Buy that's, a parent and they don't know anything about video games. The person when they go, okay, you can buy Nintendo Switch, and Nintendo have this fantastic service where you can book a consultation with them, and they'll tell you how to set up all the protection on there, so you don't have your kids going and buying stuff in the store. I think it's actually really, really great, and I think retailers are going to love it. And just it does come back to it gives you that nostalgia about Nintendo Hotline as well.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well.
Yeah, which is cool. But the whole, okay, it's going to recommend games what to play next. I mean, they could automate that stuff. They could have that, you click on an app and it looks at your history and recommends. So I think it's the other parts that I think are more interesting about, the Nintendo Switch 1-on-1 and setting up, the parent mode or whatever they call it. So,
Am I the only?
Yeah, go on, Mike.
No, I was just going to quickly say, I kid you not, the image that I had in my head when you first mentioned this was I walk into a room There's some slow music playing. There's an incense burning in the corner. There's candles littered around. I take my clothes off. I sit down on a comfortable bed. Reggie walks in and he says, "Hey, big boy, you ready?" He puts some oil on his hands, gently massages them together, and then he gets working on me and he just starts massaging my back. And he's like, "All right, you liking this?
Well, that would be.
Let me tell you about Axiom Verge. In this
modern day,
I think you should play it next.
That would be more likely to be a GameStop concierge service because Reggie is no longer with Nintendo.
True.
Yeah, but they hired him through the service because they know he gives the best massages.
You could have just said Bowser came in.
Ask his wife.
The head of Nintendo America is Bowser.
Okay, Bowser can do it. And I don't know what he looks like.
Which is like an amazing...
I know what Reggie looks like, and I feel like Reggie's the kind of guy that I would let him give me a massage. I don't know why. He's just something about him. I'm like, yeah, man, you can touch me. That's fine.
The thing that tickled me about this story was I've been rewatching a lot of... This sounds really odd. Been rewatching a lot of testimony to Congress where they've had tech leaders come.
Okay.
And they had
after the massage. They came after the massage, or
they had the Google CEO. They had the Google CEO, right? And basically, these congressmen and senators were yelling at the Google CEO, saying, "You know, this iPhone, it's popping up with this warning," and so. And he's just sitting there calmly and patiently, like so patiently, and then going, "Sir, we don't make the iPhone. That's made by another company. I can't assist you." And then he's like, "Well, just imagine it's an Android phone." It's just like, what? And then the thing that made me laugh so hard when this story came out was, he's like, "Why can't you have it so that, you know, I can call a number and chat to someone one-on-one to explain the internet and how this works?" And I'm like, wow, Nintendo has actually done this. Because the people were like, how memeable is that? As if you could ever have like a service where you could call and people can explain like how these things work.
Now you can.
There you go, Nintendo. Nintendo listened. They actually heard this.
Well, I hope Nintendo listened to my idea of the massage because it would be an amazing experience.
I think this just goes to show you how comfortable Nintendo is right now.
Yes,
that they're able to do this.
How dominant they are. Like, if they have the money to do this, they are thinking this thing is going to sell 125 million copies for sure. And I'd love to be a conspiracy theorist and say maybe there's a new set of consoles coming out soon.
The weird part to me is that the Nintendo Switch one-on-one, I mean, there's not that much to do on the Switch.
Well, it's the privacy and security stuff, I think, is you're 100% right with that.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of people that have it in their data. It's certain that there's so many people that bought a Switch only to play Animal Crossing. And it's kind of at a point now where, what do you do next, right? So I think converting those people into people who play other games is really critical. And I would love to call the line and go, playing a lot of Animal Crossing, what else is there to play? I'm fascinated to see if they go and play Stardew Valley, which makes the most amount of sense, or go play another Nintendo game that they publish, you know what I mean? And Mike is just licking his new Nintendo box. Just trying to
all I know is I can hear something there.
Yeah, he's
so
being...
That means our listeners can hear something.
Mike, calm down. Calm down. Mike,
I was testing the weight of the box. It's actually not as heavy as I thought it would be.
Okay, what we're going to do now is we're going to give away games for charity. And you are going to start donating to it every time you transgress.
Wait, I got one right here.
We'll have an annual thing where it'd be 99% your contributions, but it could be Swinny and myself as well. All right, let's get on to the next story. So updates for Nintendo Switch Online. I'm going to let Swinny carry this because he loves these updates.
Well, first of all, I don't love this update. I think you're misrepresenting me. There's one game out of these four that I do love. So the new game's being added to Nintendo Switch Online Classic Game Services on the 17th of February. So we've got Doomsday Warrior on the Super Nintendo, Prehistorik Man for the Super Nintendo, Psycho Dream for the Super Nintendo, and Fire and Ice for the NES. So
which one's the one you're looking forward to?
All of them. He loves them all.
Well, Mike, you know, I was just going to end it there. I wasn't going to follow up exactly what I said I was going to say. No, so a little while back, I actually talked to Integot, and he doesn't remember about Prehistorik Man. It's a game.
I remember.
I don't think it was on the show.
No, but I remember you guys were talking about something offline about it because I remembered the game, and I'm like, oh, Prehistorik Man, that sounds familiar.
But that was just this week when he mentioned it.
No. This was a while ago.
Okay, so Prehistorik Man is actually a game that came out quite late in the Super Nintendo's life cycle. It's actually kind of based off.
Ironically,
there's a game on the PC called
Nice joke there, Mike. I just got it.
There's a game on the PC called Prehistorik, and that's also by Titus, which Prehistorik Man is made by as well. And I actually love Prehistorik Man, and the reason why...
Oh, wait. I figured out why. Mike.
Wait, what?
He loves it because it's published by Chemco.
Oh.
First of all, I did not know that.
Sure.
I didn't.
Sure.
I knew it was developed by Titus. No, Prehistorik Man, I actually really, really like that game. I think it's a really it's a very unknown game to a lot of people. And that's what I actually like about this. Now, I understand people being annoyed that they're not dropping something like Earthbound or, I'd love them to start adding things like Secret of Mana or Chrono Trigger, but I don't think those ones are going to happen, honestly.
Well, yeah, Earthbound is way more likely.
Yeah. But, so I'm not saying that, it's disappointed that there aren't some big hitters there, but the reason why I actually really like this service is it gets me to try games that I've never played before. And the one that I actually am really keen to try, and it could absolutely suck, and I have no idea, is that Psycho Dream game. It just looks really, really bizarre and just cool to try, so I'm looking forward to it. So that's all it was. I understand why people have been frustrated, but give Prehistorik Man a good shot. Like it's a little slow at the start, but gets really good. I think it's a fantastic game.
Can I ask you a question? So I played a game that was just called Prehistorik. It wasn't Prehistorik Man or anything like that. That was on PC.
Mike, I just said that before.
Do you listen?
I wasn't, because I was looking the game up.
I just said before it's based on that game. But
that's the game I remember.
But it's very different than that game. That was like a one-screen scrolling platform, like a lot of PC platformers. This is like a proper, And honestly, I think it's one of the best non-Nintendo 2D platformers on the SNES. So.
Okay, sorry, I apologize about that. I was busy looking for the game, and I didn't tune out, but I didn't pay attention to everything he said.
I didn't tune out. I didn't pay attention. This is clearly the worst drop that they've had. I was looking at the wiki article of the various drops that they had for Nintendo Switch Online.
I agree. It is the worst drop.
And I love how much of a contrarian you are, Swinny, that just the general reception for this of everyone is like, oh my God, this is terrible. What's the point of even this drop? And then your reaction, I loved it. It was like, oh, this is awesome.
No, because I love Prehistorik Man. As I said, a lot of people don't even know that game exists. And
I know.
I rented that randomly. I never even seen that in a games magazine in the 90s. I just randomly rented it from a video store and just loved the game. So
I think the thing historically when they've been doing these drops, they have one signature game that many people would even know or has some kind of buzz to it. And this is probably the first time where there's literally no games that have any buzz that I can
tell. Yeah. No, definitely not.
I guess they've got Shin Megami Tensei 2 in Japan. So I guess if you think it from a Japanese perspective, yeah, sure, that's fine. But yeah, I don't know. I'm really baffled by what they're doing with this service. It just seems very strange to me.
It's also so slow. The rollout of this stuff just seems so... honestly, the Virtual Console, even though you had to pay for them, was just way better than this service.
Well, that's what I was going to reference. That I, fired up my Wii U to play Skyward Sword, and I was just looking through all the Virtual Console games. I'm like, whoa, this is crazy! The amount of games you could play on that, it was just freaking awesome. And that is the one thing with the Switch, that they've just done the old school Disney Vault and just locked every game up again. And I guess they're just trying to figure out other ways to extract money out of them. It's very strange to me. And the other one was they haven't rolled off any games from the service, a la Game Pass. That was the other thing I thought was very strange, that they haven't actually taken games off Nintendo Switch Online. They've only added, which is, good for the consumer. But from the start, they said that they were potentially going to do that. And people were nervous about that. So very weird. Very weird. All right, Swinny, this is your excitement.
Yeah,
GamesMaster getting rebooted.
Yeah, so this week there was news that the classic 90s UK video game show GamesMaster is planning a return. So, GamesMaster, for anyone that doesn't know, and anyone that lives outside the UK wouldn't know, it ran for about 7 years or 6 years or so, from 1992 to 1998 on Channel 4 over there. And I was living in the UK around 93, 94, so I was actually there for the first couple of seasons, and I remember this show super fondly. And it was the first UK show about video games. So it had a really, really cool setup where basically each season was set in, like, one was set in an oil rig, another was set in a church, and it just had such a cool, almost like dark gothic vibe about it. It's the most 90s thing you've ever seen if you go see any stuff now. It is like 90s, I don't know, on steroids. It's crazy. But it was hosted by a guy called Dominic Diamond, who's a media personality over there. He's Scottish, for 6 of the 7 seasons. But one of the seasons, and one of the ones I fondly remember, which was season 3, was actually hosted by Dexter Fletcher. And I don't know if you guys know that name, but Dexter Fletcher was the second unit director and took over from Bryan Singer on Bohemian Rhapsody, the movie, as the director. And Dexter Fletcher was the director for Rocket Man, the Elton John movie as well. Nice. So it's just wild for me still to this day to think of. I just think of that guy as the host of GamesMaster, even though it was only for 1 season. But the GamesMaster himself was portrayed by a guy named Sir Patrick Moore, very well known in the UK, and it was just it was focused a lot on competition, and you got two people challenging each other, but then it mixed it in with reviews and hints and stuff. And it just had a really, really cool vibe to it. And they also released a magazine that I was very fond of as well, and they printed that for quite a few years. And this Reboot, so the Reboot's coming to what's called E4, so I'm guessing it's like one of the secondary channels of Channel 4 over there. But it sounds like it's going to be a bit different. I don't know if it's going to have the same impact, and it will focus on celebrities battling each other in video game competitions. And this day and age with Twitch, and you've got people like Ronda Rousey and AOC going on Twitch already, it kind of almost feels like, well, that stuff's already happening, so it doesn't feel like a unique hook. But
and who's it aimed at? Who gives a shit about people like that fighting it out, celebrities fighting it out? That's the part I don't get.
Well, look, people
do you really care about that?
You ask a question. You could ask that question about any reality TV show.
No, but it's a different kind of the from what I've seen of the episodes back then, it was different. It was actual people, gamers and stuff, battling it out.
Yeah. You did have celebrities.
Do gamers care about celebrities?
You did actually have a lot of celebrities coming on the show. And apparently it led to there's actually an article on Eurogamer. It's quite old. It's from about 2014 called GamesMaster, The Inside Story, which is fantastic. It's a great read for anyone that was watched GamesMaster as a kid. So I'll link that in the show notes. But they actually talk about like people like Vinnie Jones and 2 Unlimited and a whole bunch of UK celebrities, and just some really, really funny anecdotes, and especially footballs apparently were the worst because they'd get like called up the last minute that they're cancelling and stuff. So you did actually have a lot of celebrity involvement with it, but this sounds like apparently it's like 5 celebrities, and each week they eliminate a celebrity, and then you get a winner at the end. So
you know what it reminds me of a little bit, Swinny, and going to Mike's point on, does anyone care if celebrities play games? I would say yes, because I think Conan O'Brien's series Clueless Gamer, like that is a very popular series. That gets a lot of traffic on
It's
YouTube.
really popular, I think, because fair enough.
And
look, I think
he like genuinely is like he almost hates video games, to be honest. I don't think he really wants to do the segments at all, but they get a lot of traction, and it is
it's
really
like watching
funny.
a train wreck. I get it.
That's what's funny about it. You watch these people and it's well edited and everything like that, but it is funny to watch people play, especially something you're familiar with and they're so terrible at it, or they come on and they're actually pretty decent at it. It's like, okay.
Look, I get it. I'd be happy as long as in the reboot, they bring the magazines back out and they bring the Sir Patrick Moore centerfolds that each one used to have. If they do that, then yeah, cool by me.
So I don't think you've seen what he looks like. So.
Yeah. I have seen what it looks like. I've seen a whole bunch of these episodes now.
Just on that note, on the sales website for Channel 4, they've got a picture of Sir Patrick Stewart next to the GamesMaster logo. So if they end up getting Patrick Stewart to be the GamesMaster, that is awesome.
Man, I would love him in one of those poses, just leaning back
That would be funny.
in a centerfold. I would buy that.
It's basically like it's almost like just a head with like it's like a Krang style, like within a machine and stuff. But yeah, really cool. And it's
what's up with the UK, Swinny, of doing that kind of stuff? There's many examples I can think of, like Red Dwarf, where the UK really loves having just like floating heads.
Well, it's funny you say that because one of the sets they did for one of the seasons was actually used for an episode in Red Dwarf.
Ah, okay, there you go.
Yes.
Was that the set that we saw in the B-roll? Because it reminded me of season 7 of Red Dwarf.
No, I don't think it was. I think it was just the one. I can't remember what season it was, but it was the one that was set on an oil rig, and I think that was used in one of the episodes. But yeah, it was great. It was definitely a product of its time. We may have mentioned it before, but at some point we've got to talk about the Australian video game show, Amazing as well. And it was very different in tone to that. This was like very dark, industrial, whereas Amazing was like a fun, happy kind of game show. But
the tones are like completely the opposite.
Yeah, very different.
And what happened to that other gaming show we had in Australia?
Good Game?
Good Game, yeah. That was awesome.
They sort of transitioned it. It was like Good Game, and then they made like
Spawn.
Spawn Gate or
Spawn, I think it was.
Spawn
Yeah,
something.
Spawn
Spawn Point.
That was like
I
the
think it was
more
called.
kids. Spawn Point, yeah, that was the more the kids.
Yeah, but I think at that
one,
stage
yeah.
it was already waning, and then
it's a
the main
shame.
hosts left, and you sort of it kind of faded out.
It was good while it
interesting
lasted. It was good while it lasted.
Yeah, it was
it's
awesome.
fascinating though, because gaming has never been bigger, but really those TV shows, none of them are working. None of them are working at all. But I guess, you look at YouTube, Twitch, those channels are massive now. They've literally millions of people following them. So I guess that's where the audience has gone, which makes sense.
Well,
Yeah,
maybe
I
we
guess
should
it's
approach
cool.
the ABC and go, hey, I know a couple of other guys who are doing this podcast. We're thinking
Big week in
maybe
gaming
you
on the
can,
ABC.
do a big week in gaming on the ABC, yeah.
We'd have to do our PC training, so I'm not sure if we'd be able to pass that.
I wouldn't pass it. No, I'm not even going to bother.
All right. Well, let's move on to the final story. This is a lot of secret intel that I've been tapping into. Got the juicy details. Give me
the deets.
In my friends in retail. So this is JB Hi-Fi and EB Games. So number one, I should say, and we should post this early in the week, that I was able to confirm that each of the JB stores have booked the next shipment for PS5s. They don't know when they're going to come in, but it blew me away how few they were able to book. So they've been told that each store will have 10 in Australia, which is nothing.
Wait, how many stores are there? That's not per store, but I guess
It is
overall for
per
Australia.
store, 10 per store on average. That's what they said.
How many stores do we have in Australia though?
I'd say like about 200, 300.
Okay.
That's
So
not
it's
many.
not
That's not
Dude,
many.
that's nothing. That's not. They usually deal with like hundreds,
That's
even
not
per
a
store.
lot of stock. 3,000 units.
Yeah, and they said that EB would get about 5 to 10. So if you think about it, like in each little area that you have those, like there's nothing that they have available there. So
And
I
they
believe,
go like that. They go like that. So when I got my Xbox, I was super lucky in the sense that I rocked up at 11 o'clock and I saw the box in just the empty box that they were advertising for like $700 or what, $749. And I go to the guy, there's just an empty box. Do you guys actually have stock? And he goes, I got 3 this morning at 10 o'clock. One's already gone. I've got 2 left. They just go like that.
If that was a PlayStation 5, it would have been gone by the time you got there, man.
Oh, well, even
The
those
employee would have taken
guaranteed by
it.
lunchtime, they probably disappeared as well.
So
So
again, you could be a normal person like me and build your own customized bot that trolls websites and then gives you an automated phone call
Totally
or text
normal.
message if you're a normal
Totally.
person. Or
Hello.
I would highly recommend that you get on Twitter, install it on your phone if you don't have it, put notifications on, subscribe to
Twitter.
Yeah.
Good one.
go to Press Start AU. That's the Press Start website, which is an Australian website. They have been extremely good and timely at posting when stock is available for PS5 on various retailers. So I think if you're really desperate to get one, that's what I would do if I was you. But the other piece of intel that I got was they let me know how many phone calls they've received specifically asking about the PS5 since it launched. 250,000 phone calls.
What?
Sheesh.
250,000 phone calls just calling to go, hey, do you have a PS5? PS5.
Wow.
I'm sure they
Yeah.
probably have an automated thing, but people just ignore
No, they
it
don't.
anyway.
They don't. They don't have an
What?
automated. Nothing's automated
So wait, at the this is in store, right? This is across all their stores.
across all
there.
the stores.
Okay, right. Because you can't really
all the
automate that unless you instantly put people on hold, and the message they hear is, if you are inquiring about a PS5 stock, we currently do not have any. Otherwise, please hold.
So if you do the maths across Australia, they get about 3,000 calls a day about the PS5.
Oh my god!
The stores.
Wow.
So yeah, what are you talking
That's
about?
true.
300 stores, 10 calls a day. It would drive you nuts.
That
and
seems about right, yeah.
that does not count people walking in and asking
Hmm.
people at the games area. So if you chat to them, they say sometimes they could have 10 people in a row. Like a random person comes up, hey, do you have PS5s? They walk off, and the next person comes up to them, hey, do you have PS5?
Yes.
Like they will have a chain of people like in a row.
Wow.
Which
By the way,
just
then,
shows-
according to LinkedIn, for EB Games Australia, they have 380 stores.
Yeah, so about what I said, yeah. Yeah, it's
And 40 more in New Zealand. If you
it
can
blew me
count
away
those
when I
as a
heard
separate state.
250,000 phone calls just about the PS5. So
Makes
Wild.
sense.
well, yeah, and you go, sure, there's duplicate calls, but I hate calling stores if I don't have to. I'd rather always do everything online, not have to call anyone. So
Really? I love talking to people.
I think there's a lot of people that don't want to call.
I love going in store and bugging them about stuff like this.
I'm sure they love you about
So
that.
they can at least see my face, and they can put a face to the
They put you on the
hatred
ban list.
to the hatred that they have for people asking them
I
the
can
same
just-
stupid question 10 times a day.
I can just imagine the reaction when they see you like walk into the store. It's like, oh, this bastard again. He's gonna
I know.
he's gonna
This
fleece us
ignorant,
for everything
arrogant,
we've got.
smug bastard.
Lost so much money on this guy. Oh my god!
Can
Can I just say I've got a friend who said, and I do believe him because I know what he's like, that in the past 10 years or something, he traded back something like 25 consoles.
Wow.
As in, like, he'll get it, he'll be like, oh, I don't really want to know. He'll trade the Xbox back and get a PlayStation or something. He'll trade it back and get. Yeah, he's gone through like.
But they're making money
I'll
each
ask
time,
him.
right?
No, just like returning them within the
Return
window.
it, really? I'm
Yeah,
surprised they
yeah.
didn't block him.
No.
Interesting.
I will ask, and you know what? I believe him because I know his history and I know
Yeah.
what he's like. And he's so many times he'll message me saying, and I'm not going to mention any names, obviously. He'll message me saying, "Oh, I've got the Xbox, blah blah blah." I'm like, "Dude, you're just going to return it. Why did you even bother getting it?"
remember
And
you
a
s-
week later, he doesn't have it anymore.
Do you remember you used to be able to return games at Target really easily? And
Yes.
they were like
Nice.
Super Nintendo games,
Yeah,
so you
they
could
didn't
beat them in
care at
weekend
all.
and take it back and get another game.
We can still do that at EB games.
They do, yeah.
Yeah, but I'm saying like these were games you could complete in a short amount of time, unlike modern games, you know?
There was also a really shitty loophole, which I actually never used, but I know people did use it. If I'm not mistaken, you used to be able to, when Target had 20% off on eBay, they would you would buy it off eBay for like whatever, the $450 minus 20% for the console. And once you got the actual console with the invoice would have $450 on it. It would
Oh,
have the
no.
20% discount, and people would take it back to
Target
Target,
the physical store.
and just get their money back. So they literally just made
People.
20% out of nothing.
So can I just
Mike.
quickly say,
I never returned consoles though. You know
but
me.
can I
kept
can I
all my
just quickly
consoles.
explain to people that's fraud. Like
Of
that's
course it's
literally
fraud.
criminal. And that's
Sorry,
fraud.
I'm not saying you people should do this. I'm just saying people were doing that. And you know, I
Just like
I
people
have
steal
not returned
money.
my consoles. I still have
Like-
all the consoles that I've bought.
Yeah, that's
Because I'm of
fraud.
the mentality, I'm like, okay, like the PlayStation 5, right? I was sitting there and I was very well aware that it wasn't being used. And I looked on eBay, I'm like, wow, I could flog this thing off, even opened up for $1,500. I could double
Mike
my
the
money.
Scalper.
But I went, no, why? I will use this thing. And even if I only use it a month from now, 2 months from now, I will use it. What's the point of doing this? Like, yes, you can make a quick buck, but I'll play Demon Souls in a couple of months again. So I kept it. Didn't bother, getting rid of it or selling it or anything.
Yeah, fair enough. So as I said, subscribe to Twitter, press.au. This is obviously only for Australia. If you're in America, I'd go to Wario64. Keep those notifications on if you really care about getting a PlayStation 5. There are more stock coming in. I believe EB and JB Hi-Fi have already booked out their next shipment. But as I said, there's not very many coming. But there'll be more stock coming in the next months. But I think you really need to be on top of it. As I said, like it'd be annoying, but yeah, put notifications on, check them all as they pop up, and then jump on it really quickly. So you have accounts ready to go because even when they do go live, they usually sell out within like 90 seconds these days. So yeah, 250,000 calls JB has got. It's like almost 1,000 per store. It's insane.
Crazy.
All right, let's move into my favorite segment of the week, the bargain bin, for the week commencing Sunday, the 14th of Feb. Epic Games free game this week is Halcyon 6. There's an interesting game coming next week, but we'll cover it then, just in case they change their minds, as they're prone to do. Nintendo Switch, the highlights for us this week, Monster Sanctuary, which is $21.70 until the 7th of March. Swinny and I both very much love this game. There is a new update coming in March, so that actually might be a really good time to get into that game. The Flame in the Flood, $6.50 until the 21st of Feb. The Long Journey Home, $4.50 until the 27th of Feb. And I added in all the Bioshock games are on sale at the moment, $17.47 each, or about $50 total until the 28th of Feb. I think that's a pretty decent deal. I'm not sure how they play though, probably not that well. On the PlayStation, we've got Darkest Dungeon, $6.50 until 18th of Feb. Darkest Dungeon Ancestral Edition for $14 until the 18th of Feb. Strider is $4.60 until the 25th of Feb. And Dark Souls 3 Deluxe Edition, $25 until the 25th of Feb. We should call out that we don't usually have Xbox sales because the sales are on a weekly basis and end basically the day after this show goes live. So it's not really much point having Xbox games. But do you want to cover the PSA, Swinny?
Well, hang on. But someone bought an Xbox Series X for $270. Putting it out there.
And spent 15 minutes talking about it. All right, so a PSA, just a quick PSA that Tales from the Borderlands is actually being relisted. So it got delisted back in 2019 after Telltale Games went under. And Tales from the Borderlands is very well regarded. I actually really, really love it. And so, yeah, it's coming back. Apparently available 17th of Feb. And I believe a Switch version even got outed by the Taiwan Ratings Board.
Oh, interesting.
Very interesting. I still find it so fascinating that Telltale Games went under because they had such a cool niche series of games with pretty big IPs and pretty big brands.
It
just surprised me that something like that.
It's very well documented why they went under.
I know, but
it's an example of stretching yourself too thin, and then anything that changes, you can fall apart. So. All right, let's get into our review sections.
Yes.
Bowser's Fury. So I should be clear that this won't be a review of Super Mario 3D World, but this is a review of the game that was I wouldn't even say it's an expansion. It's really like the game that they included in Super Mario 3D World. So Super Mario 3D World itself, just showing on the screen, was released back in 2013, 2014, Swinny, on the Wii U. And now has been ported and re-released on the Switch. And Nintendo decided to include a game called Bowser's Fury, which is like very odd. Like I can't help but say like this whole thing and the way that they set it up is very odd. So I always love this stuff and I get fascinated by it. Like how do you even jump in the game? What does it even mean? I mean, Nintendo is describing this game as a new mode. So basically once you open the game and jump into it, you're just presented with a screen at the start of the game saying, do you want to play Super Mario 3D World? Or you go to the right and you play Bowser's Fury. And then you go into it and it's as if it's like, that's its own game. Like almost like, All-Stars or something like that, which immediately I thought was quite strange. This game, I have to say, I love it. Like I love this game. Kind of just jumping to the end of it. It's about 3 hours to complete it. So I think about a quarter of what it takes to get through Odyssey, but from a completion perspective, it's a lot shorter. So it's about 6 hours to do everything in it. I won't spoil too much about it, but I would say like it is so much bigger than I thought it was going to be. So initially when we heard about it,
it's good to hear.
Well, yeah, I thought it was going to be a bit like how Super Mario 3D World is, and just touching on that again, we won't review that in this, but 3D World's an interesting one because Super Mario 3D Land, which came out on the 3DS before it, made a lot of sense for the 3DS. They took almost the 2D formula of Mario, made it into 3D, took advantage of the 3D in the 3DS, and made perfect sense for that console or handheld. 3D World, to me, was always a bit strange. I really like it, but it isn't necessarily a 3D Mario. It's definitely not a 2D Mario. It's, for me, really the one that's a hybrid of those two. And at times I feel like it has more in common with the new Super Mario Brothers series rather than the 3D Mario series, if that makes any sense. I think actually Nintendo have done the same thing as what I do, but I actually classify it in its own category. So it's almost like you've got the 2D games that Mario has, you've got the 3D sort of Mario 64 style games, and then you've got this other category, which is like the 3D world style games, because they are extremely linear. Now you've got like Bowser's Fury, which I'm just showing the steel case. Bowser's Fury is just so weird, and it's like such a weird experiment from Nintendo. It actually reminds me a lot of Link's Awakening, where, you know, they wanted to port Link to the Past to the Game Boy, and then they sort of realized that didn't make a lot of sense, and they started experimenting and mucking around with the formula. And I think this often happens with Nintendo when they're under time pressure to put something out. Not saying that that's the case here, but who knows? They really have produced something that's quite odd. Like, and I really wish you guys, especially you, Swinny, just given that you have played most of the 3D Mario games and 2D Mario games, had a chance to play it and get your thoughts on it as well. It's a weird experiment. And like, to describe it to you guys, it's, if you could imagine, you know, with Odyssey, you know, you have these sandbox levels and they are huge, but they are pretty sandboxy. Like, you pretty much can do most of what you want from the start. It's a little bit of, tiny bit of linearity, but generally pretty sandboxy. But with this, it's hard to describe it. You've got an entire world that is literally like probably 3 times the size of any level in Odyssey. So it's massive, and you're only in one world. So like from an Odyssey context, it's, yeah, just like you've got one world to play in. It's massive, but it is pretty structured in terms of how you're meant to progress through it. In a way, it doesn't really reward you just going off the beaten path like Mike style in Skyrim. Just, you know, okay, that's the main quest, I'm just going to skip all of that and do all the side quests, which is cool. You kind of do need to progress through the main sort of cat shines and story beats that you need to do, but you do hit a point. So like I said, you know, completion is about 6 hours. Beating the game, quote unquote, is about 3. You know, you get that halfway point, and then it really just becomes a sandbox game where, you know, you can go and do any cat shines you want. And as I said, it's like so strange because 3D World has no real ability. You can move the camera a little bit, but most of the camera movement is all scripted. And as I said, that's what makes it sort of a bit of a mishmash in between 2D and 3D Marios. Whereas this game, Bowser's Fury, actually uses the engine for 3D World, the mechanics of 3D World, but gives you a free camera, and it makes the game feel like heaps different.
Does it feel closer to 3D World or Odyssey?
I honestly, I feel like, to me personally, I feel like it feels more like Sunshine mixed with Odyssey. Like, that's the vibe really I got from it. And like, I say more like Sunshine because Sunshine, out of any Mario game, kind of stuck to a theme more so than any other Mario game that I can think of.
Definitely, yeah.
And that's like this. Like, I could understand people not loving this. I'll just say now, I can't understand IGN giving it a 7 out of 10 as a package. That's insane to me. Like, you know, I can understand people saying they don't love it, right? I just think...
I love those messages. You're so angry.
Well, it's just like, to be honest, like, I just think it's a bit of edgelord stuff. I get it, there's subjectivity, obviously, but at the same time, if someone turns around and goes, oh, Shakespeare's rubbish and trash, it's just like, I just don't think you get it, man.
7 isn't even that bad of a score, but I understand what you're saying.
Okay, like, there's a huge difference if you are normalizing the scores. I think if you and I and Mike, we give our scores, we're actually normalizing it. So like a 5 is still okay. But in IGN scale, the reality is no game gets under 7. Like, it has to be a complete mess to get under 7, right? Because they're getting paid off and they want to advertise games and do all that kind of stuff, and they want the money from the publishers. Allegedly, they do.
So I haven't read the review, but what made him give it that score?
I think a combination of many things, but I think, you know, he felt that it just didn't hit the highs of other Mario games. Now, I totally agree with that. Like, 3D World does not hit. It is not my favorite Mario game.
But this, by the way, sorry, as the Mario, so just for everyone else who hasn't played these games, this is a the same one that was on the Wii U?
So Super Mario 3D World, I'm showing it on the screen. Super Mario 3D World released on the Wii U about 7 years ago.
Yep.
IGN gave that 9.6 out of 10, right?
Yeah.
Then they took that game, they improved it a bit, so it runs a bit better. It's a higher resolution, and they increased the speed of the movement, which I actually really love that they've done that. Now playing it, then Nintendo also added Bowser's Fury, which is like a 3 to 6 hour game, right? It doesn't take anything away from Super Mario 3D World. It's just like a new game that they added in, right? And like an Astro's Playroom style size of game, you know, just to give you context, which I love. I wish there was more games like that, to be honest, because it's easier to play through. I was able to play it to completion. And then they gave it 7 out of 10.
It just that doesn't make sense to me, because it's as if, for example, you give Dark Souls a 9.8 and then you give the remaster, which is the same game with all sorts of stuff added to it and improved, a 7.
But
that wouldn't make sense.
No, but it does make sense because it's different reviewers. It's not the same person reviewing.
No, but that's what I mean. It's a different thing.
They can't hide behind that
company.
It's a masthead, man. It's a masthead.
Yeah.
It's not Cam Shay's review. He reviewed it, but he reviewed it for IGN. They've got to stand behind it, right? And listening to their own podcast on it, they were a bit like, it's still a great game. We all loved it. Like, we might have gave it 9 out of 10, you know, don't kill us type of thing.
Yeah, but
why don't you give it a 9 out of 10 then?
It's not like it's... No, I disagree with that. It's the reviewer's review. It's not IGN's review.
No, I think it's IGN's review. I think when you work for a company, it's the company's view at that point, not you as a journalist within that.
No,
and you have editors and
I
stuff
completely
too.
disagree. I think it is still the reviewer's review at that point.
You know why?
I don't think it is.
You know why you're wrong, Swinny?
People don't look at reviews. I don't even know who this guy is. All I know is who
he's an
IGN
Australian
is.
reviewer, which is unfortunate. He actually, I used to, well, you know, I really like the guy. I disagree with his opinion on this, and I like the guy.
We shouldn't diss the guy, by the way.
No, I like the guy. He's actually a cool guy. Yeah. I've liked a lot of other reviews he's done. He did a lot of great work for Hyper. I just totally disagree with him on this, but everyone's got different opinions. That's what makes the world.
Well, clearly, because even between us, we have a different opinion. And I think you as well, integot, feel that when you work for a company, you represent that company, and anything that goes out is a representation of what that company puts out. And a lot of people don't even know who the hell a reviewer is. They're like, they don't even read the name of the person that reviewed it. They just go, IGN said that this is 7. So, and I'm one of those idiots. So,
and Swinny, like I explain why I don't think you're right, even by IGN's own logic, because there was the ex-editor for IGN for the Nintendo component, Philip Mewson, who plagiarized and stole reviews from people, and IGN owned up to that. They said, yes, we did. This person did it in our staff, but we're IGN, and you know it's our reviews. And they went and re-reviewed that game, so they didn't hide behind, hey, that's just a person, that's his review, that's not us. They did say it's our review.
That's a very different situation to compare to.
Why?
Because that is an exception to everything. You know, like that was a situation where they had to take action. No, I don't think, honestly, this is just difference of opinion. I don't think one's right or one's wrong. It's just different take. Yeah. I feel that, when you've got multiple people, if it was the same, if it was just one person on one site, that's different. To me, I actually like the fact that if people know that they're going to like this game already, right? Honestly, at this point, you're just looking to confirm, or people do this. They actively go look at bad reviews just to get pissed off and comment on it. We know that, right? I've done that in the past. But it's just...
Integot just did it.
Yeah, I just think that, to me, it's directly about when you're talking about the drop from their previous score to this one. It's just a different reviewer, different opinion. That's all.
Fair point.
Yeah,
I think we should all just agree that you're wrong and we're right, and move on.
Can I just say, because I do want to get back and close out the review, but for me, it's more, to me, he failed to mount the case of why it's a 7 out of 10.
Oh, that's fair enough.
I think you could mount the case at 7 out of 10. As I said, if I did a tier list, and we should do this actually sometime, Swinny, a tier list of 3D Mario games, off the top of my head, I'd probably rank 3D World ahead of Sunshine, but that would probably be it. So, I'm not saying I'm a huge lover of 3D World, but even saying that, to me, Odyssey and Mario 64 are 10 out of 10 games. So the only thing I can look at is like you're looking at these insane highs, and then you're looking at like 3D World and Bowser's Fury, and you go, well, it doesn't reach that high. But that's still, like, to me, a minimum of an 8 out of 10. Like, minimum. Like, I think as a package, to me, I'd probably put this as an 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I was going to go, what's your actual review? Because we spent more time talking about someone else's review.
No, we didn't.
Than you talking about the bloody review
Bowser's
supposed
Fury,
to do.
as I said, I don't like to spoil things, so I won't spoil how many cat shines are in the game. But as I said, like, I was shocked at how much is in the game. And I love the way that they go about it. It's so fascinating. There's one aspect of the game that I'll touch on is and you'd appreciate this, Swinny. Donkey Kong 64. So one thing about Donkey Kong 64 is you have the different Kongs and they have different abilities. And one frustration people have is there's certain things you need to get in that game to get all the collectibles. You need to go back and switch out the Kongs, and it's a nightmare. This game actually has a mechanic that I wonder if they will pick up in the next 3D Mario game, where you have Bowser Jr. and he actually holds power-ups for you, and you can switch between power-ups. So you can switch between like Cat Mario or the Tanuki Suit Mario almost at will eventually, because you get so many of these power-ups banked up. Like, I was just switching back and forth to whatever I needed for the situation. And for the most part, you probably don't essentially need it. There are some parts where it's like, okay, I have to be Cat Mario to get through this. But I would love them to explore that a bit further. It actually gave a bit of a, almost a Breath of the Wild vibe to it, where, the powers that you have in Breath of the Wild, where I could imagine them really playing into that even harder. And it was really good fun to play a Mario game where it felt like the power-ups were more essential than they generally are normally. I could almost skip those power-ups.
You mentioned Zelda, and I was thinking it's kind of like Miora's Mask and Majora's Mask, how you swap between the different, Goron Link and Zora Link and stuff like that.
And that was another game that I was going to touch on. It has that Nintendo vibe about it to me of a Majora's Mask, Link's Awakening, where it's like, it does feel like a bit of an experiment from Nintendo. And I love the way that they've included it with this game, because I feel that if they had released this as a standalone game, I'm not sure how much I'd price it at, too much given Nintendo standards. And I think people would be really annoyed if this was even a 40 Australian dollars. I don't think it would be worth it. But having said that, I really wish, you'd actually played through it, or you will get the chance to one day, because it's a really fun, weird experiment. I'd say Bowser's Fury, to me, I'd probably give it 8 out of 10. I don't think it's as good as 3D World, but I did love it. And it's just probably one of the things that I don't see myself anytime soon going back to playing, if that makes sense. It's just really odd, really fun, really weird the way it's presented. The boss fights, so the sort of Super Saiyan Cat Mario segments, Nintendo never does boss fights very well. And I think that's the case in this case as well. It's just a bit like, okay, just getting through it. It's nothing exciting. But yeah, very, very solid game. Really liked it. Do you think you'll pick it up, Swinny, or?
I dispute that. I think Zelda boss fights are very well done. But if you're talking Mario,
I said Mario. Mario boss fights. Sorry, did I say Nintendo boss fights? Oh, I meant Mario boss fights.
Yeah. Look, I will probably eventually get it. There is a part of me, just like with Mario Kart 8, where I have it on the Wii U and I just haven't played it. So it's like, I feel like I'm spending money on something that I haven't even should have experienced already. And that's my problem. It's got nothing to do with Nintendo. That's just the reason why I haven't gone and picked it up. Plus, also, I'm just crazy bastard in the middle of all this RPG.
Well, I can, next time I'm down in Melbourne, I can lend you it, because it is a game that
I actually want to play it too. I want to play it. If you have it, I wouldn't mind playing it. I actually want to play the original Super Mario 3D World, obviously.
Well, you should get it. You should get it, because we can play it online.
Yeah, I want to get it, but it's $70. And what Swinny just said, I'll play like 10 minutes of it, and then I'll go, oh shit, I've got all these other games I got to play, and a course I got to do, and work that finishes at 7, 8 p.m.
And I should say, I also got the the Cat Mario and the Cat Peach amiibo as well. That looks really sick. So yeah, 8 out of 10 I'd give Bowser's Fury. Really, really enjoyed it.
All right, I was just actually, just real quick, sorry, before Swinny goes on, I was back to the, hey, we don't pay that much for games. So the game's $69 for us at most major retailers. And that actually only comes down to $53 US, which is pretty good when you consider that it's a $60 US game in a lot of places in the US.
I think
So again, it just surprises me. It's so much cheaper than the US.
I think for you, like it's more like, do you want to play it because you're not a big 3D Mario person, but I do understand Swinny's perspective. Like if I had, now that I've played through Bowser's Fury, I had a copy of 3D World on the Wii U. It is not a $70 DLC. It's just not. Like it's not worth it. But for someone who hasn't played 3D World, it's an insane value. It's so good value. Like the fact that you can get this for 70 Australian dollars, which like Mike said is about 50 US dollars, you get 3D World and Bowser's Fury. It's crazy. It's like crazy value. So yeah, if Swinny never had 3D World, it to me would be a must buy. But I think if you had 3D World, it's definitely more of a, can you get someone to lend you a copy of it and play it that way? Because it is very short relative. Like you don't need to collect everything. So you really can get the most out of it in about 2 to 3 hours. So, cool. All right, Swinny, over to you for the last review of the show.
Yeah, so this week I've been playing a really, what I think is a really cool game called Blacksmith: The Sand Kingdom. So it's the latest sim RPG. That's what I've called it, from Ridian. So it is published by Kemco. So Ridian made a game that was released in May 2019, at least in Western markets, called Morenian Tavern Story Paddy and the Hungry God, which was very... Essentially, this game feels like a direct sequel to it in terms of mechanics, but I don't know when the original release schedule was, because in a lot of ways this game feels like the first, and that was the sequel, and I'll kind of compare it a bit later, but basically it's a blacksmith RPG. So some people may remember there's a game called Rachet, I think that's how you pronounce it, where you run an item shop and you go out and you fight monsters and then you come back and sell your items in the item shop. It was like a PC indie game, really popular. And there's also the Atelier games, which I've never played, that have a heavy focus on crafting. So this game is kind of in the vein of those, where it's an RPG, but the main hook of the game is you are a blacksmith with a shop. You're crafting all the equipment, your weapons and armor and some, other things, and then you're selling them, and then you essentially go through the loop. And the loop is, very early on they establish what that loop is, and it's not going to be for everyone, 100%. So you basically, I'd say you wake up in the morning, but it's more like you open the shop and close the shop. So you accept missions from like an adventurers guild, and it's almost just like a menu with different buildings on there. You go into dungeons, you collect materials, you complete the missions, then you come back to your shop, you craft the weapons and armor, and you also complete missions from building that stuff. You put them on sale, and then you rinse repeat for like 30 hours. That's the loop. That's the whole loop of...
Yeah, sounds like fun.
Of just going to dungeons, getting materials, coming back, and crafting. And I think the balance, I reckon, is probably about 80% of your time is in menus, crafting stuff, and 20% of your time is in dungeons, fighting monsters in a turn-based JRPG.
The more you talk about it, the more fun it sounds.
Look, that's why I said if you're into those games, if you love RPGs where you're in crafting menus a lot, and you're into kind of like really min-maxing your... Because you also have a party that you have to build up as well. So it's not that you're just selling the stuff to progress the game. For that, you also have to kit yourself out. And it's actually pretty cool. So there's no set characters. At the start, you set up your 5 characters, almost like a Western-style RPG. You select a class and a faith. The classes determine not only your battle skills, but also what equipment they can actually use. So eventually you unlock like I don't know if it's ninja class or something, so they use daggers, but they can't use heavy swords and things, right?
Okay.
Faiths have basically passive buffs, and you can swap at any time between class and faith. So they, you can select that stuff, but you can change them at any time, and you will need to change them over time as well. And as you complete more missions, you unlock more classes and faiths. So it's almost like a job system for Final Fantasy 3 and Final Fantasy 5. So it's actually pretty cool. As you level up as well, you unlock the ability to add a subclass. So each of your characters has... You'll have your main class, but the subclass allows you to use additional skills. I don't think it helps you equip more things, though. I think what you can equip is based on your main class, and more slots for passive skills and things. So when you're in the actual dungeon and walking around, and the rest of the game is just pretty much like a menus and things, whereas in the dungeons, you're actually walking around as Sprite in a 3D levels. Well, 3D levels, but it's top-down. And there's no random encounters, thankfully. That's an improvement, I think, from Millennium Tavern's story. And you go into battles with monsters, and it's like a 3x3 grid. And formation of your party is really, really important. And you really have to kind of, actually spend quite a bit of time thinking about how you set up everyone on the battlefield. And like all good RPGs, it's got an auto battle function, which is really, really great when you're just farming. So if you know that you're easily able to take any of the enemies, you can essentially just go into battle, quickly complete it, and then just move on to the next one. And there's a lot of variety of battle skills. I'm not going to get too far into that, but some of the bosses too do get quite tough. And you may actually need to go back to your shop and actually craft new equipment for your party that's specific for that boss. So an example would be one boss was invulnerable completely to physical damage, and 3 or 4 out of my 5 party members were focused on physical damage. So I had to go back and then craft them all weapons that had elemental attributes. So then I could take the boss down. So it's an example of where you actually need to think a bit about it. But the game is all about the crafting. So in total, there's about 194 different materials together. There's about 385 different pieces of equipment to craft, and about 177 different runes that you can get to put into that equipment. So like Millennium Tavern's story, there's a lot of great quality of life features in those menus. So I kind of sent you guys a couple of joke clips throughout the week of this is me for the next 40 hours, essentially just going through menus. But it's actually, honestly, if you like crafting in RPGs, it's actually really fun. I actually had a blast with all that stuff. And you can easily filter and sort. You can build stuff in bulk. You can sell stuff in bulk. They've made it as simple as possible. There's also an arena that you can go to in the town to just fight the monsters you need for the equipment, for the materials you need, so you don't have to go hunting them. So they've given you a lot of stuff. Graphically,
it sounds like you ran an eBay store simulator in the fantasy world.
Can I just defend it? Can I defend it for a second? Because this is not my kind of game at all. But I do understand what I would say is almost like a comfort food.
Dude,
this is definitely comfort food.
Yeah.
Which is like, if it's in your alley and you just get it, it's almost like your brain switches off. You can just focus on this. This is how I feel like with Picross. I've got so many Picross games. I keep playing them all the time. Like any week, I probably would have played a Picross game just because I do it before I go to sleep, and it's really relaxing. So I can understand if that tickles your fancy. That's sort of that comfort.
I could see this. It's like, think about all the football manager games, F1 manager. It's the same sort of thing. It can be quite fun actually when you get into that.
And you do have to balance a little bit. So your objectives are essentially to sell a lot of stuff, but also to get a lot of custom satisfaction. So you have to balance your markup. And it's really easy. Like, it's not complicated. You can basically say, okay, I'm going to put 20 of these fancy sword on sale, but I'm going to make the markup a bit lower, and then it'll make people happier. And then so you can kind of adjust stuff, or you could just fleece the hell out of everyone and make a whole lot of money. So graphically, look, it's very simple. The monster and character sprites, they're fun, but nothing to write home about. The character portraits are fine, but they're just stills. And the 3D dungeons are pretty bare bones. Like, remember, this is a very small developer, Japanese developer as well. But most importantly in this kind of game, the menus and the UI are really, really nice and clean. And they look great. So that's the most important part. The music's very forgettable, honestly. But to me, how does this compare to Millennium Tavern's story? So I loved Millennium Tavern's story. And that game felt very different in many ways. So it was, instead of it being a blacksmith, you were running a tavern, so it was all about cooking there, right? But the loop was the same. You went to dungeons, got stuff. But the reason why I like that game so much more is it felt more like a complete game. So that actually had your character walking around in an actual town, and you could walk into your tavern, you could go to other towns to speak to NPCs. This game doesn't have that. It's just like a map with buildings, and then you go into the dungeons. So it's definitely, there's less fluff there. So if you're just interested in doing that stuff, you don't have to physically walk your character to a shop to go buy the materials you need. You just go to a menu, but it kind of loses the charm of it. And also in the dungeons themselves, there's no secret areas. It just feels like it's much more bare bones. So to compare it to anyone that liked Meridian Tavern Story, it kind of almost feels like this was the first game and that's the sequel. So that's why that's the way it feels to me. But I had I had a blast with this game, but it's definitely not for everyone, 100%. Even for people that like RPGs and JRPGs, it's not going to be for everyone because the loop is so simple. You know, you have to, I think, really like games that are just designed around the same thing over and over again. You know, and if you like that thing, it's great. If you're like, okay, not great, you're going to get bored very quickly. And it's the one good thing over Meridian Tavern Story is that this game is way less of a grind for anyone that wants to get it complete 100%. That had a huge end game grind where you had to go out and fight 500 of each enemy type, and that stuff is way quicker. Like essentially you can unlock everything just through the natural course of play. So I think if you like liked Rachet and the Atelier games, the crafting components, I think you'll probably have a good time with this game. But there is one PSA I have to say though, and I got so pissed off I thought I'd have to replay my 40 hours again. If you're going for 100% completion, make sure that you've got a thief in your party because there's, like a lot of RPGs, they've got a bestiary or bestiary or whatever, and you've got to fill that 100%. And I'm like, okay, I'll just get that. I'll kill the enemies and get it to 100%. And I beat the last endgame super boss, and it was at 80%. And I'm like, I've killed every monster in this game. You've also got to steal from every single monster in the game to add to the percentage of that. And I thought I'd screwed myself because it didn't seem like you could replay the bosses. And so you got to steal from every boss as well. So there is a way to replay bosses and do that, but just as the PSA, just steal from every enemy and boss as you play in the game if you really want the 100%. So, yeah.
I love the language that you have. You go, I thought, oh shit, I have to go back and play it all. No, it's like I want to.
You always say that, and I don't
enjoy that.
I think you don't understand context.
No, I do understand context. It's just I'm always a stickler for words and the meaning of words.
If you want 100%, you have to. Like again, context. But yeah,
if
it's
you
like
feel
breathing.
you have a choice,
breathing.
exactly. If you feel you have a choice in life,
the one last thing I'll say,
and you choose to get 100%.
The one last thing I'll say about this game is that don't think this is a cookie cutter, crappy RPG Maker style game like a lot of Kemco published games. This is very different. Those two Ridian games, Blacksmith Sand Kingdom and Meridian Tavern Story, are very different, and they're easily the two best games that they've published on modern platforms. So.
Nice. So what would you give this out of 10?
I'd probably give this a 7 out of 10. Just like Mario 3D World's
You should
IGN
go work
review.
for IGN. I was going to say, you should go work for them.
Well, they literally gave Knack 2 7.2. So according to Cam Shea, Knack 2 is a better game than Super Mario 3D World.
Can we get
and
Cam on this?
Bowser's Fury.
Are we big enough yet to get Cam on this?
Definitely not.
Okay, just asking.
Maybe if we do
voice chat.
Maybe if we do a feature on Hyper, that's about it.
That's true. And then we can refer back to me shitting.
I don't know. I reckon if we can reach out to the guy and say, "Hey, we've got this podcast. Do you want to spend 10 minutes justifying your?"
Oh yeah, he's totally gonna do
that's
that.
Great. That's a great pitch.
One of us is really pissed.
No. And can I just reiterate? I am not attacking him as a person. He's a cool guy.
No,
I've followed a lot of
we
other
said
things.
that.
I have an issue with the way he's argued the 7 out of 10. It doesn't make sense to me based on the review. So, and I get it's subjective. He can give it 7 out of 10, but I look at it and go, IGN's approved that. They're happy with that. So, seems very strange to me.
Can we get you two to just battle it out in Smash Brothers or something? Or
he'd lose if that's the case.
I don't know. We'll pick an even ground. We'll pick an even ground. And you two can banter and fight it out. No. What's the point? Might as well not even put the controller down before you play.
So 7 out of 10. Was there anything else you wanted to mention, Swinny, before we close out the show?
No, just it's. I think it's like $25 or $30 around that range. So it's just maybe just watch some reviews, watch some gameplay, see if it's what you might be interested in. Yeah.
You don't need any other review outside of Swinny's review.
Nah,
exactly.
7 out of 10.
7 out of
7 out of 10.
So decide based on what Swinny's
Go
saying
get it. Or
and
don't.
his reputation at the Big Week in Gaming podcast. All right, let's close out the show. So again, thanks for your patronage for the show. If you've lasted this long into the show, I'm going to request you to go on the YouTube channel, subscribe to us. We're almost at 100 subscribers.
Comment
half of where
comment about
Mike is
Mike.
at?
Comment more. We want more things for Mike's wall.
Yeah, we want more of dissing me. I want you people to give me more shit.
No, we want more opinions.
More opinions. I want you to tell me what I do wrong. I need that.
And more importantly, jump on your podcast service of choice. Give us a good review. Give us a follow. Give us a like. Give us a review.
God,
I want to see some 5-star reviews on.
I want to see any reviews.
And and again, share the show with your friends. Get the word out.
Speaking of friends, Darren, who's one of our biggest fans, if you're listening, I hope your wife's chest is okay. Please continue listening to our podcast.
I
we love you.
Do not know how to take that.
Yeah, and I'm not going to touch that.
Please.
I didn't touch it.
All right. Well, I think that ends the show appropriately.
Inappropriately.
All right, bye bye. Bye bye.
See ya.
Laters.